Earth is very flat.
What's going on, everybody? It is Monday, February 15th, 2021. I'm Brandon. This is Brandon's show. Hope everybody's doing good out there. See, we got some people in chat. I see a comment about the cat. I hope the everything's okay. It says cat has been drawing again, page 42. What's up, Paige? Ian Adams, Chrissy, Bill G, Dan Morris, Unicorn Laser Eyes. Cool name. Reno Najcan, Data on the Plane. What's up, Data? Had a bunch of suggestions for the show title. Those would have been good ones. I couldn't think of anything at the time, so I just stuck one up there. Let's see, what do we got going on here? If you want to support the show, you can do it through Streamlabs. I'll put the link in the chat and pin that to the top as I usually do. So that'll be there for you if you want to do that. Or you can join us in the Discord. The link is in the description. And I see we've got some people in there. And I've kind of adjusted the way those look on the screen so you can see who is talking and who is in the Discord. So hopefully that'll work out the way that looks up there. Let's see what else is going on. I've got a bunch of stuff we can talk about. I do have a question about the sun. There was a lot of talk on Jose's show about the sun. Seems to be a hot topic lately. So I figured we might get around to talking about that. Someone can answer my question. But we'll see where things go. Let's go into Discord and say hello. What's up, guys? We're live.
Yo.
Hello.
We got Allie B.
How you doing, Brandon?
What's up, Allie? You sound really low for some reason.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. And we got
that better.
Oh, that's much better. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And we got Chrissy 2000. Chrissy, I think this is the first time I've seen that name in here, and you just joined the Discord. So what's up? No. All right. God. Jeremy.
Oh, it's the GOD. It's the Globe Obfuscation Dismantling. Let's get it on.
Cool. And the real Bob Dole. What's up, Bob?
Hey, I'm just wondering why you're out here voice shaming Allie B and others. What's up with that? Mike shaming them.
Well, you know, I am trying to improve the quality of the broadcast.
You know who else tried to improve the quality? Hitler. That's who. Okay?
Well, you know, you take the good ideas and you leave the bad. So that's what I'm trying to do. But yeah. So I'm fine with the mics usually, but you know, if we can have a better sound, that's cool too. It's a never-ending struggle, mind you. Anyway, so what's going on, guys? How was your weekend?
Slow. Kind of boring.
Okay, that's exciting.
The stocks aren't open. The markets aren't open on the weekends, man.
Oh, we should get into cryptocurrency. It's open 24/7, matey. You're in the wrong game.
I know. I have one of them, so I can watch that chart go up and down a little bit. That's somewhat helpful.
All right, yeah. I know the feeling.
Are you?
We had an interest. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask. Are you into crypto, Allie?
Yeah. I've been in it about 2 years or something like that. So I've had great fun.
Okay. And what coins are you looking at right now? What do you got?
I've got some Bitcoin and I've got some Ethereum. I haven't got a whole Bitcoin, but I've got some. I've got a couple of $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, the same in Ethereum.
Gotcha. Okay. No Dogecoin or any of the altcoins, huh?
No,
That's the one I got.
That got pumped. That actually got pumped, right? That Dogecoin got pumped here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, big
those
time.
Little altcoins. Yo, those little altcoins is how you bubble crazy. Because they'll go up like hundreds of %, if not like thousands. like practically over. I used to have Bitbean, and it was at 1 Satoshi, and then it went to 300 Satoshi within like a couple weeks.
Holy
A
shit.
Satoshi is the smallest. A Satoshi is the smallest digit in a Bitcoin. You know, it goes eight decimal or 8 zeros deep. That would be 7 zeros and a 1 is a Satoshi.
It's like it's as corrupt as the stock market or as manipulated at the stock market. The only difference is you can you trade yourself. You know it's kind of anonymous. The transactions only
Yeah, and
become...
you're not working through you don't necessarily have to work through a broker, right?
No, absolutely not. No, you do it yourself. You don't want to use a broker. You kind of do it yourself.
Yeah. You know,
It's quite...
I think what
sorry.
they're going to do personally is switch over everything. And these coins are kind of their foot in the door for switching over to digital currency completely. What do you think about that?
Well, all the banks, you already use it. You know, you already use
That's
the
what I was going to
technology.
say.
You already use the blockchain technology when you use your bank card, but that's a centralized blockchain, so they can follow what you're doing. So when you, for example, when you pay with your card, it's the exact same kind of system as you would use if you bought something with Bitcoin. Elon Musk takes Bitcoin now for his cars. That's why it jumped. That's why Bitcoin's jumped. Got about 15 grand in the last week and a half.
Bitcoin jumped, but I heard his stock was taking a beating because now that's a huge unenvironmentally friendly thing to do. Bitcoin's a huge consumption of energy just to do it, to make it move. So he got hammered on that by the green people.
Oh, well, who cares about that? Because, yeah, who cares about that?
Yeah, regular
Tree
people
huggers.
don't care about that.
The tree
I
hugging
don't care.
people, yeah.
As long as the price keeps going
Climate
up and
change
down.
people. Climate change people, they all threw a hissy fit. But we had an interesting weekend. We got a response from one of the high-ranked flat earthers out there, QE, to Ruhif's nonsense about heat not causing water to boil or something.
Yeah, we'll wait till Ruhif's on to play that for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
But that was pretty interesting. And I just heard you on Jose's, Jeremy, going back and forth about the sun.
Rumpus won't draw shit in the diagrams no more for me because the shit I want him to draw is devastating to his points and how it works and shit.
Yeah, we should take a look at that because I was trying to understand what you were doing, what you were trying to get him to draw, and I have some questions about the sun myself, so we can fuck around with that in a minute. But
he seems like he is like a different person when he's on Nathan Oakley's show. Like he seems like it's like here he acts like he's all big and bad and he just tries to control the show, and over there he shrinks like a child to its parent or something when he's over there. He just gets shut down.
Which place was he acting like he wasn't bouncing off the walls though?
That all I saw was it was the Nathan Oakley's. He had put up something called like something and the after show or something like that, and I just noticed that like Rumpus would try to Rumpus. He would try to be Rumpus, and he like got shrunk back by how Nathan was slamming him. You know how Nathan do.
Yo, Oakley runs a tight ship over there, and he ain't gonna let Rumpus come in and just talk all over him and monologue and shit. He's straight to the point, cutthroat shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah,
he won't let the argument
it seemed like there was a change in Rumpus's tone and everything. Like when someone finally decided to just tell him, no, shut up, we're not putting up with your crap. He just almost got smaller as a person.
I mean,
Rumpus has been acting weird. The Rumpus has been acting weird for the last month.
Everything's more hostile in the flat earth over at Gems. People are getting way more hostile and shit. It's getting crazy.
All right.
Yeah, there was like a 10-hour session with Bev today that I was listening to earlier.
That was nice. Yeah.
Oh, that was beautiful. I was there.
That's he saw it. That's he saw it.
That was crazy. They were all attacking him.
Oh yeah, they love Bev over there.
Yeah, that's how they show their love, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Okay, so Jeremy, on my screen, I've got the sun and the moon, or I mean, the sun and the earth. And you were trying to get Rumpus to do something on Jose's. I thought maybe I could do it here. You said something about a rectangle, right? So what was it you were trying to get?
I can't really pay attention that much right now. I'm home with the fam and shit.
Oh,
I just want him to draw a
okay.
rectangle around everything and then have these parallel light rays coming in. And then put the number penumbra shit up against that. That's all.
Oh, I
when
see.
when they draw it, they have the lines converging to the moon, so no sun, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So let me add the moon in here.
Like they want to say that the angle changes with distance, but if you had picture you have railroad track, and let's assume that these railroad tracks go in a straight line or parallel the whole way down. You put a ball big enough to simulate the sun, so it's just touching the edges of the railroad tracks. Then you take like a golf ball or a marble or something, and you have it simulate the earth and the moon and shit. No matter where you put that along the line, it's going to be drowned out by sun rays. You know what I mean? They're not converging to a point.
Yeah. Not sure I understand, but what always throws me off is this idea of these parallel sun rays. That's what I wanted to ask my question about. We'll forget about the rectangle thing for now. But okay, so the sun's sitting out there. It's like massive, right? Like 800,000 miles diameter or some crazy thing like that. And they always say that when light comes off of something, it's coming in every direction at every point at all times, right? So there would be light rays just going from every point on here in every direction, from every spot on this towards the earth, right? Here, there'd be one coming here. There'd be one that started down here that came up here. Oops, I didn't copy that. There'd be ones in the middle that came to the side. So you'd have these light rays, because this is so big, like hitting at every angle possible between the sun and the earth. So you would have some that are parallel, right? But you'd have other ones that weren't parallel. So you'd have maybe two that are right here on the sun on both sides that are hitting the earth. And mind you, this is way not to scale. You'd have two that are like this, that are parallel. They're coming in parallel to the earth. And then you'd have one that was over here on the edge of the sun that's coming in here that's not parallel. So when they say that light rays are parallel or they're just off a parallel, how the fuck is that possible when you have them going in all directions from all points? How can you measure not parallel?
They say the ones that hit us are almost parallel. But if they draw I feel like if they draw the rectangle around the sun and the moon and then just fill that in with light, all parallel rays, their umbra and penumbra shit don't work right when you do that.
Okay,
This is some precise shit that has to work for this umbra penumbra to work. I've tried it, and you gotta get it just right. It's like, you know, Goldilocks. It's got to be just right.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know what rules.
Oh, you've gotten it to hold on, you've gotten it to match, Essie? Would you use like a golf ball or something?
Yeah, well, you can do it. You can form a number penumbra and show it on a piece of paper. I mean, that's not hard.
Were the light rays parallel?
I used a light source, a light bulb. I tried with the sun. You can do it, but it has to be right on, like, you know, like a magnifying glass. How you make that you know how you make it burn.
Yeah,
It has
it's
to be
gotta
like
just
that
right.
kind of
Yeah,
precise. Yeah.
find the sweet spot. Yeah.
Oh, hey, so if the moon, like from this picture here, if the moon was closer to the sun, that would just like bolster their argument. That would just allow more light to get around the moon or at the right angle to cause even less of the shadow, right?
Say that again.
Because of the way that they're showing that the light works is that it comes at an angle that ends up getting past the moon, and that makes the shadow smaller. That's their argument, right?
Yeah.
Draw
So
both
if
of
you
them,
move,
Brandon.
if you move
Hold
the
on, Bob.
moon,
Bob, hold on.
really,
Draw the umbra and penumbra. Sorry, Brandon. Sorry, Bob.
if you move the moon like really close to the sun, that would just strengthen their argument, right? Because even more of the rays would get around the moon or past the moon, right? And that would just
No,
make
no, you got to be precise, Bob. You can try it. Try it later on with take a ball, shine a light on it on your desk, and move it around. You'll see. But you got to get it just right.
So no, the reason I'm asking, okay, is because I'm wondering if there is a practical demonstration that can be done where you have a large light and then you move the object closer and closer to the light and further away from the light, anywhere along there, and see if you can get the shadow to be smaller than the object.
Yeah, you can do it. I told you I have done it.
You've made the shadow smaller than the object itself?
Yeah, yeah. The umbra. Yeah.
Okay.
But Bob, it has to be just right. Understand that? Like a magnifying glass, you got to get it just right,
Okay.
as if it was done by design, kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't. That wasn't like if it was a fluke, it was the biggest fluke in history, type of thing.
Right. I see what you're saying. I just wasn't sure if it was even a thing that you could do because I don't know that I've ever seen it where you can make the shadow smaller than the object. I don't know that I've ever witnessed that.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people say that. I thought so too until I tried it, but you can do it.
Okay. Okay.
So do you guys understand my question? What about how they can measure parallel light rays when there's light coming from all surfaces of the sun at all different angles?
I think that it would be folly to assume that they can measure light rays.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, there should be
I don't even know that the light rays even exist. They say they exist, but I don't know that we actually have any solid proof that would indicate that light actually works in rays other than we see ray type things when we have certain conditions. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how light just works normally or how it just is. That could just be certain conditions make it look like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole light ray thing is pretty interesting. Light versus wave, but I've never
think about how their claim about how light works, how the interaction that has with the sun. That means the sun is like throwing these tiny particles in every direction at all times, and they're going so fast and so far that they're able to hit us, they're able to hit Mars, they're able to hit all over the place. And it's like if the sun is like a spherical thing like they claim it is, like those particles are going everywhere all the time, like perpetually.
exactly that. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So you'd have like a light ray from this side of the sun hitting over here on the Earth, and then you'd have another one from the opposite side of the sun hitting the same spot. But you'd have another one that was like right next to this one that's going in this direction and is parallel with this one, but it's not parallel with the one from the other side of the sun. So how the fuck do you measure?
And then multiply that by essentially infinity because it's a sphere. So there has to be an infinite amount of those lines in every direction at all times, all intersecting with each other always. So like Like, how would you possibly dissect an infinite number of rays from each other? You're not going to be able to untangle that. That's bull crap.
Brandon, just put a picture up of the Umbra Penumbra, bro. You're having issues here.
No, I'm not even talking about the Umbra Penumbra. I'm asking about the light rays and how they can say that they're parallel when you're going to have non-parallel rays and parallel rays, because there's light coming off like Bob just described, every single different direction at every single point at all times, just like they tell us about something that we see in the distance. And that's how they say you can see over the curve, because some of the light is coming at just the right angle to be refracted down so that it looks up and all this shit.
Think about the list of times that we are able to see light rays. Okay, number one, when something basically closes off other parts of the light, isolating out a section of light, making a beam or a ray, and that's it. That's the list. That's the end of the list. That's the only time we ever see light rays. So like, it's absurd for them to just start claiming that they can be somehow dissecting these light rays out from each other. The only time we ever see light rays is when there's something limiting the amount of light going somewhere. That's it.
Understand one thing, Bob, guys. They've been telling us this, that the light rays are parallel. Understand, this is their story we're saying now.
Right.
That was one of
Eratosthenes'
assumptions.
Of that.
Brandon, real quick, just bring a picture of the Umbra Penumbra up. It's tricky to draw. You get an A for effort, though.
I'm not trying to draw the Umbra Penumbra.
Oh, I thought that's what you're trying to do.
No, I'm just talking about the light rays and how they can even say that they're parallel when they've got rays going in all different directions. But
if it's a sphere,
another
right,
issue, yeah.
And it's shining light, that light, think about it, it's like a light bulb, right? It's shining in every which way, no?
Yeah, exactly. It's shining in every single direction from every single spot. And the sun out here is just fucking massive too, remember? It's just
right.
Real quick.
Exactly.
Real quick.
It's just
Real
really
quick, draw up.
Yeah.
Hold on. Off of can you draw on top of their drawing?
Probably.
Yeah, draw some sun rays killing that penumbra. Landing right
You
from
see
the sun
that
right
cone
on that
shape?
penumbra.
You see that cone shape on the other side of the moon?
Yeah. This right
That's the balancing act. You got to get that just right. Just like a magnifying glass, like I was telling you guys before. It has to be just right.
So okay, Jeremy, so here's a light ray going straight from the sun into this area of the penumbra.
And you could draw a million of those light rays, right? From all different
Or
angles.
a billion or a trillion.
From a whole bunch of different angles going right into that penumbra.
Right. Except for this area of this, well, there'd be some of them blocked by the moon from whatever area is, I guess, in between the moon and the sun, right?
You could draw some from the bottom of the, draw some from the bottom of the sun going up at an angle to where it's just missing the moon.
Yeah, no, I get it. So you'd have one like this, and then you'd have these ones down here that would be going into this area. You'd have a bunch going in this area.
Make it go up more.
Move it up, though. Move it up. That right side, move that right side up. Look what would happen from the very... If you go from the bottom of the sun, and there should be light going in basically all the directions off of the bottom of the sun too, it would hit the darkest part of that shadow that they're showing, pretty sure.
I don't...
If you look at the way it's...
In this area right here?
Because okay, your light thing there on the sun side, it's not at the point, the very bottom of the sun. You're leaving out a whole section of the sun. You can go lower, and all of that they wouldn't be blocked by anything.
Well,
right
okay,
now
so
you have the white line. Right now you have the white line coming from the bottom of the sun. It's going through the sun. Move it so it's not going through the sun.
It's pretty damn close, Bob. I mean, it's right there, man.
Right. Now, go look at the moon. If you zoom in on the moon, Look at where the line is. It's not hitting the moon yet.
I don't think we can hit that dark spot there without hitting the moon.
Well, that might be a limitation of the program. That's fine. Now, but think about the width of the line that you're using. That's not real, okay? There would be an infinite amount of rays inside the line that you're using. The bottom of the sun, because of how much bigger it is than the moon, pretty sure that, like, if you think about the top and the bottom, looking at it from the 2D angle that we are, the top should send rays past the moon across the other side of the shadow. Think of how much bigger the sun is if you had it to scale. I mean, it won't do it right now. That is not to scale. That sun is not, according to their claim, only that much bigger than the moon.
Yeah, this is, no, it's way not to scale. I don't think I can find one that's to scale. But this I kind of...
Your screen is not big enough.
I reckon the trick that they use with this, from everything I've seen, is the way they present it, like you're doing now, Brandon, the way they present it in an explanation, they always have the sun rays going in a direction that's convenient to their explanation. So Jeremy on Jose's earlier hit the nail on the head. He said sometimes it's converging sun rays, sometimes it's diverging sun rays, sometimes they're parallel sun rays. They always present this orthographic picture in a way showing the sun rays that are convenient to their explanation, rather than scattering in all directions all the time infinitely, which is very inconvenient to their explanation. Similarly, when you, I don't know if you've seen them explain, you know, when an eclipse happens, apparently where
I think you cut out.
From the low side, depending on where we perceive the Earth. Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, now we can hear you. You there? Oh, he's coming back in. Give him a second.
Mike, Jack, hello.
Yep, we can hear you now.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know where I got to. I've seen them explain the eclipse, the eclipse on the moon, where the shadow of the Earth comes in from the high side, theoretically from the wrong side. And they'll explain, that's all because of the position of the sun way out in space, and they'll draw the sun rays, in a way that's convenient to what they're trying to show. So somehow or other, it doesn't matter what it is, guys, the sun rays are always heading in a way that explains what they want, but never conflicts with what they want to, it never supports what we're trying to say. It always just conveniently shows the way they want it to.
Anyone who saw that clip of Rumpus and Oakley will tell you that they're just picking whichever one they need for the moment. They need Eratosthenes, they use parallel. They need the solar eclipse, they're using converging.
Yep, for the Umbra, they need the magnifying effect. So they have to make a thing, 1,000 miles wide, 70 miles wide. So they need the the converging rays, I would imagine.
I get the general idea in that obviously the moon is in between the sun and the earth, and some of the light is blocked in some areas and all of the light is blocked in other areas. But you're right, they're having their cake and they're eating it too, right? By saying that the light rays are parallel with Eratosthenes. And then here they're not parallel. There's obviously, if the sun works the way they say with rays, there's some rays that are parallel and some rays that aren't parallel. They're coming in a bunch of different directions, right?
They pick and choose whichever model they want.
Yeah.
The question is, how come they always appear to be divergent? If they're, if they're coming in converging and diverging and parallel, then how come we only see them as diverging?
Well, in this particular case.
Explain what you mean, percentage, by always seeing them diverging.
So, for instance, like you have crepuscular rays or whatever, any kind of area on Earth, they're saying that in that specific area, you're going to have converging rays from a whole bunch of different source points of the sun, right? But in that specific area, if you're, if what you actually observe is divergent rays.
Right.
Of course, you always observe that from the sun.
That was another thing I was wondering about. Why is there a hot spot on the Earth? Is it just because that? What is their explanation for that? Because you've got this huge ass sun, right? And it's shooting light. Should be evenly.
Why do we not see a hot spot on the moon? Is the question.
Yeah, that's another question too.
You mean the reverse? Yeah, exactly.
You should see a hot spot on the Earth.
You should
You should also see one on the moon.
Wait, why should we see a hot spot on the Earth?
Shine a light at a ball. There's going to be a hot spot.
Yeah, if it's a globe, you would
just
see
because it's a globe. Okay.
No, because we're already assuming it's a globe. But go shine a light on a ball, and you get a hot spot. From the light source.
And why is the moon? Why is the moon a specular reflection? Why is it perfectly evenly lit from left to right, top to bottom?
That's what I'm saying. You should be getting that hot spot on the moon. That's the question. Why is the hot spot not on the moon?
And when you see it on Earth, it should be bigger, right? Like you see it in these high altitude balloon footage things, and it's kind of small. It's like, a diameter of like 50 kilometers or something, not even.
Does any
the
of
Umbra
this,
is 70 miles. Imagine that, 70 miles.
does any of this conflict with having a small local sun over a flat plane? Any of what we see with the sun? Because I heard WS earlier say that the angle that the light rays are coming in and hitting the Earth couldn't happen with a small local sun. But I didn't understand why he thought that.
These guys, they think they know what the sun is and how the skies work, and I keep telling them, like, yo, you need to stop presupposing that you know how the sky works.
Yep, they think they have it all figured out. 93 million miles away.
Sun. Listen, they're trying to use. They're trying to use their sun and the way shit works in the sky on a flat Earth.
And it seems like it's another one of their opposite attacks or whatever, where we can look at the sun from behind the clouds, and the light comes in, and they diverge from each other, rays going in different directions, which shouldn't be happening if the sun's hitting the Earth parallel. Okay, if the light rays are hitting parallel like they claim they are, then those sunbeams should be going straight down to the ground, not hitting the clouds and going to different directions or whatever. They should be going straight down, parallel with each other. But that's not what we see. We see them diverge from each other and go in other directions. And basically they say, well, it's not actually that. It's parallel light. So it's another one of those things where we see a thing, and then they say, but it's actually not the thing that we see.
Can some of those crepuscular ray observations that we have be explained by perspective? Because we have a similar explanation for Mount Rainier's shadow, where it looks like the shadow is getting big, but it's just perspective coming towards you. And it's similar to crepuscular rays. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
It's also reflected from the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, your mic is all fucked up, Jimbo. Let me see if I can find that picture. What's his name that did all
that
this?
shadow is in part cast from reflection off the water of the Pacific, not too far away. So that shadow under the clouds is from reflected light from the surface of the Pacific.
Well, that's fine. I'll buy that. That makes complete sense to me, because the water is very reflective, and so is snow. But my question is, okay, this is the shadow of the top of the mountain. It's getting wider as it gets near us because of perspective, right? There's probably a better picture that'll show this.
That makes sense, yeah.
I don't think it's wider because of perspective. It's because of a wider shadow cast from the object of origin. Just like as the sun sets, your shadow grows longer. With the sun more overhead, it's a shorter shadow.
Right,
The sun
but
more to your
we're
back,
not
it's
talking
longer
about the light
shadows.
source moving. We're looking at a picture, so that we're not talking about light source moving and shadow moving with it. We're talking about a picture of one moment in time, and
The
shadows
shape of the
from one
mountain,
position to the other.
the shape of the mountain will cause that shadow. You can do it yourself. Now, does it change as far as how much the shadow changed? That's the question. But essentially, when you do like that kind of observation, in other words, make a mountain that way, and then put an object above it, and then shine a light towards it, you can create the same shape of the shadow. So, how much is due to perspective, and how much is due to the shape? I would say this is more due to the shape.
You know what? You're
So
right,
wait,
because Chris Berry showed us that demonstration that he did, and he recreated this, and that's exactly, it was too small of a space to be all due to perspective. So I think you're right
I'm
on
not.
that.
I'm not saying it's not
Was that the one
possible,
on the
but I did
car
ask
from
the
underneath
question.
there and the muffler and stuff? That demonstration?
Yeah, that was.
That was a good one,
There's
yeah, I
that
remember
one.
that.
There's another one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that.
Hmm.
So yeah, it kind of blows up my question, because I was basically saying, if this was due to perspective, then can some of the observations of crepuscular rays be explained by perspective, and that the light rays really are parallel coming through those holes?
No, you can demonstrate this yourself. There's an observation you can do by taking a sheet of paper, poking holes in it, and placing a light close to the holes and far away from the holes. You'll have the diverging rays. So you can see how that light will diverge based on your own application of it. So that totally discredits the perspective thing, because you can diverge light.
Okay, all right. So then no, they can't all be explained by that. So which would mean that what percentage says is that we do observe diverging light?
Well, you can emulate it, right? You can literally emulate diverging light. So if you can emulate it, obviously you're going to make a supposition here as far as what, your piece of paper is versus a cloud and what it does to light. But the process is still the same, or the result's still the same. You have a divergence.
Now, when you're shining that light to make that divergent light, the light source itself is parallel light until it hits the piece of paper.
Here's the object of here's the observation and the separation between parallel and divergent is the distance of the light source to the holes. So if you do have the object, the phone, far enough away from the holes, it will transfer the light straight down in parallel lines. But if you bring the light closer to the holes, it will eventually diverge the light, thereby showing you close light is the only way to get diverging rays. It's nothing to do with perspective.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I appreciate that. So if you hold it 6 feet above the holes in the paper, the light will shine straight down, parallel, or nearly so. But if you get it really close, like 2 inches from the holes in the paper, then you're going to get the divergent light. Is that right?
Basically, and you so nature, you see that diverging light based on the same principle. It's just we don't know, that particular position of the sun, where it is and what it is. We just know light itself diverges, and the only way to get diverging light is to have it interact with something close to it.
That's the way that we can demonstrate it, right?
Basically,
yeah. So that would be the thing that we can actually scientifically experience and demonstrate ourselves, and they would most likely have us ignore that and just extrapolate whatever we can out of the mathematics and the diagrams and say, well, it can happen this other way too, so it must be that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And here's what we're talking about with crepuscular rays. So kind of, if these clouds were the paper, then you would expect that light to be just above the clouds and not 93 million miles away. So you guys think?
Well, the result would be the same. In other words, if you had a far away light, those clouds wouldn't affect it causing divergence. It would be parallel down. It's only the fact that the light source is close to the clouds, or appears to be close to the clouds, you get that effect, right? So it's indicating that it isn't far enough away to cause parallel light. At least that's what the practical demonstration would suggest.
Gotcha. So the sun kind of looks like it's right about here, right? And it would make sense because the rays are shining in that
I'll throw this
direction.
out there. If a glober or somebody, and not even a glober, if anybody, flat earther, glober, whatever, if you have counter evidence by way of demonstration that you can make those parallel lines with in ways that he didn't just say. He just said that with the close light you can make them diverge, far away light they would come in parallel. If you have a counter demonstration that shows that he's absolutely wrong, please get on here and show us, because I would like to see it.
Now, the only problem with the obvious, what we consider obvious close light, is retracing the lines back to the position of the sun. Right? That's a whole other argument as well. It's the same thing as being under a pool and then trying to calculate the light coming in from the pool, right? It may appear to be at a certain position or really close, but it's an optical phenomenon again.
But if
doing
if they
with the properties.
If they were to claim that defense, that just opens up another can of worms for them. That doesn't hurt us.
Exactly, but they've been used. This is not new. This particular argument or diverging rays, right, and crepuscular rays, they'll always retrace it back to the position, and they're like, well, are you saying the sun is here? Well, it doesn't add up. It's 3,000 miles away. It's 4,000 miles away. It's 6,000 miles away. It doesn't add up, right? Oh.
Why can't I just treat these like we would any other straight lines and trace them back with perspective lines like this?
Well, you can. There's nothing to do it, but then you're going to make an assumption of how high the sun is to get your angle, or you're going to make an assumption to the distance to get your angle, right? So,
I mean, they do all converge at pretty much the same spot, right? Look at that. I don't know. Obviously, this is pseudoscience, what I'm doing on the screen right here, but
right, that's not.
It's I mean, it's sure
science.
Right. It's not science exactly, but it sure does look like that fucking sun is close to me. Nothing I've seen convinces me that it's 93 million miles away.
This is actually what when I first began Flat Earth, this is one of the first things I saw, that crepuscular rays, God rays, because once I saw the observation that you could do yourself, and then I did it, and then I looked at the equations mathematically for the globe, this is actually what made me investigate Flat Earth further. Because when I confronted people who work in the industry of optics, I said to them, I said, what are these God rays to you? Well, they said to me that's perspective causing that. And then when that conversation developed further, I asked them, during the process of the debate, I said, well, what causes this diversion? Close light or far light? And they said close light. And I said, exactly. That's my point. And they all shut up. So they can tell you that it's perspective. But then when it comes to practical application of diverging light, you can only do it by having a close light source. So.
Yeah, I've never thought that the sun looked like it was that far away. That's always bothered me my entire life, long before I ever thought the Earth was flat.
I was going to point out that your sun was a little bit to the left, so you debunked yourself.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I was all into space and the sun and galaxies and planets and distances and, all of that stuff. I had no reason to question it, right? It was just until this particular argument, which was people that would claim that God rays or crepuscular rays were created by perspective, knowing that I'd already done the observation myself, showing that close light is only caused by, or divergence is caused by interaction with close light. And then to have it reaffirmed led me to investigate further into, and it led me to the diffraction, the double slit experiment, that kind of stuff, which led me into light, right? Which then goes right back to optics and angles, which led me to Euclidean geometry.
Weren't the Egyptians like super into the sun or something like that?
Well, we have our 360-day cycle based on them, and I think what they've done, or what I remember they did, is they would have cycles of the rotations of the stars, and they would have it in 12 sections or something. I can't remember, or 18 sections or something, and they would base our modern day calendar and all that stuff is actually based in Egyptian stuff to this day.
I'm looking at Brandon Toy's diagram, his scientific diagram here, and I'm getting pyramid vibes, and I'm just wondering if there's some sort of a connection with their fascination or their interest in the sun and perhaps its movements and things, and their decision on pyramids and stuff like that.
Well, of course, it's all related to that, right? I mean, isn't the geometry Mother Nature speaking to mankind? Isn't it geometry the version of our Creator? That's essentially what it is, right? Our Creator is geometry, and then He's teaching us through geometry how to navigate the world and what we see, right? Wouldn't you agree?
I don't know what that means, so I don't know if I agree, but it sounds interesting.
What do you mean? You don't think that our Creator makes geometrical things, and then by basically the geometric constant of our eye, like we basically operate in straight lines and angles, even in modern day, right?
Well, okay, maybe you're just saying it in a way that I don't recognize. I think that our Creator gave us the ability to understand the world around us with the tools He gave us, our eyes. I think that He did design it that way for us to understand or have the ability to understand.
Exactly. In the Bible, when He created the horizon, He says that He stretched a line across it. Right?
Okay.
When He created the horizon. So if you look at optics and the angular resolution, all that stuff, but then you look at biblically, He says he stretched a line across it. So what is that implying? He stretched a line across it. A line is straight, right?
Right. So I see what you're saying.
So the horizon is straight. So then you got to think.
It's so ridiculous how deep the globe goes. You said He stretched a line across it, and in my head, I thought of a curved line, even though I know that's not what I see. That was terrible. Oh my goodness.
Well, he inscribed a circle and He stretched a line across it. That's what's really written literally. He inscribed a circle in the deep, and then He drew a line across it. So
if it scales
if
it scales 1-to-1 for how far you see to where that circle of vision is around you, then that would continue to stay a straight line. But if that ratio doesn't continue, then it might start to appear curved.
I'm just saying that He said that he stretched a line across it, right? And that's a plane to me, not a sphere.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sorry, I didn't mean to kill the conversation.
No, I'm just thinking that this is interesting. And I've seen this idea before, but I think that this is a bigger deal than maybe we've made it out to be before. This idea of the light needing to be close to make these rays properly, and what they claim about the sun, it literally doesn't make sense. It doesn't stand up to sense.
Well, isn't it all about the demonstration, right? This is
Exactly.
Basic physics versus theoretical physics.
Right.
Well, I'm sitting here trying to debunk what we're saying right here, thinking about if these were parallel, what would they look like from this distance with perspective? And I don't see this being caused by perspective. It's these ones back here that bother me. That would be hard to explain. Why would they look divergent? These all look about the same distance away, right? Yet they diverge left to right.
The question really would be is how do they discern the difference between diverging light and perspective? That would be really the question here, and the answer would be what they reply back. And that would be provided probably by a comic or a cartoon demonstration, and nothing by practical demonstration. So really, it's just how do they discern the difference between perspective and diverging light here?
Yeah, how would we discern the difference? That's my question. I guess.
We have to have the light.
Well, here's what you do: is you show what light does,
or something.
What you show what light does interacting with objects, because if they're saying that if it's a far light, well, then it should just shine through the clouds parallel, right? Because by practical demonstration, when you shine a close light, it diverges. So by that practical observation, you should conclude that there is a way to distinguish between perspective and diverging light.
Not only that, but they claim that the sun is, like 400 times bigger than the Earth or something, like some ridiculously larger than the Earth, which means there shouldn't be these rays coming in. If it is from the sun that's 93 million miles away, why is the light coming in just in that direction? There should be light in all of the directions.
But again, you can't falsify that because there's no way to see that observation. Direct observation would contradict any assumption that parallel light at a distance would be our reality when it's not demonstrated that way. So
yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I'm just thinking thoughts basically.
Well, that's what I was trying to get at earlier too, Bob, with the rays going in every single direction from the sun, is we'd just be blasted with this light coming from the sun all in the same direction, right? I'm trying to reconcile with my mind, which is tough because the sun is supposedly 93 million miles away. What that would actually fucking look like?
Yeah, but here's the thing:
that far away.
Aristarchus did 1 mile away, and then 3 miles away, or 1 mile, or was it 1 million miles away, then 3 million miles away. Then they bumped it up to 12 million miles away. So this astronomical number of 93 million miles, you're trying to wrap your head around it when even the greatest and most sophisticated AI or Blender or animated software cannot emulate the size of the sun in their program. They cannot show you what it would look like from your perspective seeing a sun that size. Right?
Well, just had to make it match.
You can't do it. It wouldn't fit. It wouldn't fit even the dynamics of the computer program because optically and visually it wouldn't match. You can't have that big of a sun. I don't know. You can't even model it. So
it doesn't match reality. It can't be done in Blender. Blender is all photorealism, not photofakeism.
The only way to do it is to actually make this. The only way to do it is to make the sun the exact same size as the moon. That's what you have to do. I'm sorry, you can't model in Blender a 400 times bigger sun, 400 times farther away, to match what we see.
Well, didn't they just change? The distance is is based on them changing the shape of the land we live on from a flat plane. I'm speaking hypothetically, right? A flat plane to a giant sphere. So the result is you get a 93 million mile sun, right? It's just a mathematical.
No, they need the distance.
That far away covered by the moon.
They need the distance for the formulation for gravity, right? So they need to have the sun at a certain distance for their formulations to work, right? So their formulation.
What does gravity have to do with it? I'm saying they need it for
because the mass of the sun, the mass and size of the sun produces a certain gravity that is supposed to draw all the planets in, right?
Oh yeah, but they can say that the sun was whatever mass they needed it to be. They based that off of Cavendish, right? They just built that on top of Cavendish.
I actually don't remember what the mass of the sun is. I know that they look, as far as their formulations go, they're always trying to tweak their calculations to fit their observations, right? That's why we ended up That's why we ended up at 93 million. But then what does the 93 mean? Thelema? Is it Thelema? Is that correct? 93? It's like a esoteric magic number?
Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Type in 93 Thelema. I think so. I think that's what it is.
Okay.
But it's a magic. I can't remember if it's Mason or not, actually. Or I think 93 is actually no.
No,
is
you're right.
Mason?
93 Thelema. The number 93 is of great significance in Thelema, founded by English author and occultist Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so there you go.
So what is this all about? Why are they obsessed with 93?
Well, it's 3 and 9 and 6, right? Everything's 3, 9, and 6. So
Okay, so these guys are weird, but it is common for Thelemites to greet each other with 93 in person as well as in the opening and closing of written correspondence. This custom derives from Aleister Crowley's guideline that Thelemites should greet each other with the law of Thelema by saying, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," since saying the entire law can be cumbersome. Using 93 has become a kind of shorthand. That's weird. In informal written correspondence, one often finds the number singularly at the head of a letter representing that saying, and the form 93, 93 divided by 93 at the end. What the heck? Here.
So you-
Probably
so-
guy seems like an idiot.
So yeah, this is like when you first get into this is the fun. I don't know if you guys experienced this, but when I did in 2016, 17, there was all these like I had massive before Flat Earth became a conversation of mine. I had all these massive moon landing hoax videos come across my path, right? And I wrote all this down, stuff just to kind of log it all, right? And it was a lot of Aleister Crowley, a lot of Dak Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, Walt Disney, DARPA guy, the Shadow CIA, Shadow CIA, and then Jesuits. All this stuff to organize the moon landing, right, or the staged event. So what you find out is all these guys had codes and communications and how to speak to each other, whether it would be in commercials or movies. They would send these messages, right, like this basic spy and espionage shit, but they would do it in plain sight in front of the mass media. I can't show you anything because this is years ago that I read all this stuff, and one of the things was 93 Thelema, which is big, and so it's not Mason, it's Aleister Crowley. I forgot, but you find a lot of these similarities in modern science with these occult teachings, so to speak. Right? It's kind of evident now.
Right. I guess in the Greek language, Thelema and agape, the letters add up to 93. So it's kind of a gematria thing.
Yeah. So the Greeks were like, all that Neoplatonic metaphysic, esoteric. Like I think the Jews took it on after, right? Like the Kabbalah came out of this kind of Greek esoteric teachings, right? And I think the Jews took it to their whole new level when it comes to I forget the tree and all that stuff. I forget all this stuff, man. You kind of push it away when you don't use it, you lose it, so to speak. But the Kabbalah has originated from kind of this mythos, the Greek mythos, right, of life and philosophy and spheres and internal God and all this stuff, right?
Yeah,
I can't really elaborate much because I pushed it aside. But somebody who you want to probably, if you ever watch Southern Israelite on YouTube, he will give you an earful as far as the perennialistic, which is like the combination of all these religions coming together, what we consider to be modern science, which is like 10 dimensions, the string theory, quantum, some types of quantum mechanics, quantum physics and stuff, which is rooted in spiritual, philosophical ideas, right? What do you mean by spiritual is that there's what's that famous scientist? He says that every atheist will find God at the bottom of a glass. Is that life might teach you to be an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God's waiting for you? Something like that?
I can't remember who it was. The symbol is interesting that they have for Thelema. Looks familiar. 6-pointed shape. And it also it looks like, what are those called? That NASA has in their logos and all the space agencies have in their logos. I'm sure someone has pointed this out before.
Vectors?
The vector?
Yeah, the vectors. Yeah. Right?
Well, that's
Every
another thing too.
space agency has those. Everyone on Earth.
It's not just that. It's Volkswagen. It's BMW. It's all of the big corporations have their, like, look at Audi. Audi and the
Yeah,
four
yeah. Audi,
rings,
Subaru, the star
right?
constellation. Yeah, they're all
Those,
linked. Yeah.
those four rings mean something, right? I can't remember what they mean, but they don't mean what they mean for the average person. They mean something for the big guys or the elites.
Yeah, it's all symbolism with them.
Right. Yeah. Weird. Very weird.
So
Even
think about
Martin
this
Marietta's
way.
got something like that too. The two M's.
Think about it this way: when you read and research about, the time of Pythagoras, and then people that took after him, the idea to join the cult of Pythagorean, if you will, was you did to take a oath of what do you call it? A oath of silence.
Vow of silence?
Vow of silence, and for 5 years before you were taught anything. So if that was going on then, you don't think there's people nowadays devoted to be vowing of silence just to get into these secret clubs now? Of course they are. So nothing's changed. It's just gotten kind of bigger, I think.
Yeah, no doubt.
And the money. Do you ever hear of white man monkey job? Do you ever hear that saying?
No.
White man monkey job is what Chinese entrepreneurs and anyway, they basically hire white people to sell products for them, right? Or represent like anything medical, anything to do with product medical. They always use white people in China, but there's people that are getting paid, to do other things when it comes to political agendas and so forth, right? But it's called white man monkey job. You should look it up because more and more people are coming out saying, "Yep, I was hired to do this, this, and this." Da 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 da. And it's like it's crazy how everybody's turned into the China dollar, right?
White man monkey job.
Yep, white man monkey job. That symbol that you're flashing there also is a symbol from shit. That's from the Thelema, right? Is that from
this
the
is the
Thelema that you showed me?
Thelema, the one with the thing in the center. Yeah.
That is right there. Part of Lucifer's symbol. I can't remember what part of it is. But that's That's Lucifer's symbol right there. Because we're used to the Pentagon, right? But the Pentagon was like something to use with magical traditions. But there's actually a Lucifer symbol, and I believe the Thelema highlights it. I'd have to go back and research it again. But check out the Lucifer symbol, or type in the Lucifer vector. I think Google uses it, or no, Mail uses it. I think somebody uses it. Mainstream uses it, and it's in plain sight. Maybe it is Google that uses it. I can't remember.
Lucifer vector. Wow, do I get some weird stuff when I look that up?
This is so ridiculous that like some dude on the internet will like put his two fingers together like okie dokie, and suddenly he's a white supremacist because he's using their symbol, and we all know it's that symbol. But people like they don't look at all of these different logos for these different space agencies and think,
there you go. It's right there.
Somewhat in cahoots.
Yeah, that's the one right there, Brandon. So that was close. I was close. I was seeing similarities in it, but no, I'm kind of off a little bit.
Well,
there's the forked tongue. The forked tongue.
Maybe, yeah. What's that from though? That symbol there. I remember seeing that. Now I think Google Mail uses this. I think, or some Facebook Mail, or somebody uses that symbol. That's mainstream.
It says it's the sigil of Lucifer. Mark Collard said they're called chevrons. These
chevrons. Yeah, those are chevrons up top. The vector that there's chevrons and vectors, right? I think the vectors is like the NASA tongue, right? And that's probably what he's mean by chevron as well.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, well, they symbolize that.
What did you want me to look up?
I forget now. I forget what I was saying. I'm looking at that symbol. Type in Google Mail, Yahoo Mail, Facebook Mail, and it's one of those mails that use this logo.
This same one?
Very similar. There's elements to it. I can't remember where I saw this. This is like, I don't know if you guys experienced it, but like I said, man, when YouTube went full retard and it just put Nibiru, aliens, grays, nuclear explosions, calling in contact with aliens, it was just an explosion of like, I'll never forget it, man. explosion of propaganda like I've never seen. Because I wasn't a YouTuber. I was not into this shit, right? Like, doing voice things and all that stuff. But
No,
this
what's
is
Isn't
what
it
they
crazy?
do.
funny? They're using chevrons, vectors,
Well,
all of them,
here's the
all the
yeah, but-
space agencies. Why those two symbols? Why?
Well, to communicate, number one, that's basic communication and allegiance. So communicate and allegiance. In other words, we're here, we're open for business, and we have allegiance to you. That's usually certain symbols have those. Anyway, that's the idea.
Allegiance to who? Do you think these guys are all
group.
aligned with like
One group? Yep, absolutely,
Okay.
one
They're
group.
all the same group, these people,
Yeah.
all of them.
It's one group they want to be all part of. It's like one big boys club they want to get into. So they open up shop, they show the vector, they're ready to play ball, they're showing their allegiance, right? But
Okay,
so just look up the. Well, come on! If you get into a business partnership, you want to align yourself with people who have the same business ideas.
yeah.
You're not going to go into business with somebody who doesn't have the same values. So it's like, it's like right now, like Mr. Pillow Guy got banned off of Amazon or something for selling pillows because he spoke up about Donald Trump.
Poor, he couldn't find a nicer guy. What the hell? Seems like the
That's
nicest
what I
guy in
mean.
the world.
So the Democratic front that we have coming, or whatever you want to call it, is really against guys like Mr. Pillow. So they're going to be open shop for themselves, and the other guys want to be open for shop, won't be able to open up shop soon. That's the whole point of the game of conquering. So
Interesting. Actually, I just got something from WS. Appreciate that, WS. If the moon were only 1 pixel, tediously accurate scale model of the solar system. Oh, I've seen this before. Yeah, thank you. So there's the sun. The moon's 1 pixel. Let's see how long it takes. Here comes our first planet, Mercury. It's hard to tell.
can't see what you're
There's Earth.
can't see what you're showing.
Oh, I'm not sharing that one. Shit.
Doesn't look it.
No, I'm not. Thank you. Let me share the screen then. There we go. So this thing, I don't know how useful this is, but that is a long way. And here's the sun.
So was that his reply to the model that I said you couldn't model at Earth and see it? So this is what I asked him to do: zoom in into Earth and then turn around and look at your sun, because in Blender you'd have to make the sun and moon the same size to do that. Yours is easy to do. I can draw that into 2 heartbeats.
Yeah, you were talking about a
Right.
3D model.
Right.
Yep,
The
I'm
idea
talking
is-
about
what
actually.
you're saying is you can't get it to scale properly in the program the way they claim it is, right?
You can't get it to scale to match reality.
Blender sets the stars at 5 miles of elevation.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So now what you can do is emulate
They
our
have
vision.
to emulate reality for photorealism.
Exactly.
So they can't
You know,
do stars a trillion miles away.
You know
The
what? If
stars
you ever have
are 5 miles.
If you ever have time, Brandon, look up at the compression issue they have with video games. In other words, when you look at a video game, they have to basically compress the image together to get like a horizon line or whatever, or compress the values of the objects in relation to the observer, right? It's otherwise known as egocentric distance. But if you look, all video games program for this apparent convergence. It's an issue of how far to compress light into this point. It's something that all globe heads don't even think about, that their own vision, if emulated in a computer program, they have to add compression, which is the objects coming together as they move away. They have to do that to match reality.
I think there's a lot that we can probably learn from the way video games are designed and programmed and what they do and don't have to do to make them look like reality.
Well, it's even better because robot optics, they have the same issue. So basically it's the 3D depth of field and the spatial relation with the objects that are in that field. they have an issue with calculating the compression. So in other words, the convergence, which has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth, right? So robots experience it, video gamers experience it, but the globe heads, they write it down as a calculation for feet and inches, right? They calculate it as a physical thing. Anyway, we're off topic, but I'm just saying if you ever look into it, you can bring that up. It's compression in video games, and I'd like to see how a glober feels about it, because it's based on vision, not on the shape of the Earth.
Yeah, you hit on one of Bob's favorite topics there, which was video games.
Accurate, indeed.
But I'm not a big video game player, but I'll tell you this: I just recently got a used PS4 to play Call of Duty with my dad, because he just had lung surgery, and he lives in a couple thousand miles from me, and I thought it was the only way to bond with him, because he's a big fan of Call of Duty. So I've been guilty with playing a couple of games every now and again, Call of Duty with my dad.
Well, that's cool.
So on that, yeah, well, it's technology for you is good that way, because I get to talk to him, get to have some giggles and some laughs, because I can't fly and go see him, right? I have to quarantine, can't go to the hospital, can't do anything, right?
No.
So bizarro land, right?
This stupid
So the PS4 comes in handy, but I'm telling you, I kind of feel weird because I'm in my 40s, and I'm like, I have a PS4 in my 40s. Is that okay? It's kind of weird. But meanwhile, my dad.
Totally okay, man.
Meanwhile, my dad's 60. Well, here's the thing. It's this coping, right? We're in a world that is designed to make us cope. In other words, it really doesn't want us to stand up too much. Makes it kind of difficult. And when you kind of get to maybe a level of comfort and security, your coping increases, right? So, for instance, again, example. I don't know if you've ever been to Manitoba, but Manitoba, Canada is terrible. Its poverty is crazy, dude. But film is huge there. Lots of film companies, lots of money, lots of movie stars going, making tons of money. But if you walk the streets, did I say Manitoba? I meant Winnipeg. When you walk the streets of Winnipeg, it's natives are drunk everywhere you go. The streets are all run down from like 1980. It's gray, and I mean, sure, it's probably pretty nice in the summer, but I went there in the winter,
that
which
basically California.
You'd think, right?
Just like all the big, Silicon Valley and Hollywood and all that stuff. But like, you walk the actual streets, and I've never been to San Francisco, but from what I've heard, there's a whole lot of issues with like people just pooping on the streets and homeless and whatever stuff.
You've got that. They don't, not as bad as California now, but for it's the same situation. You described it perfectly well. That all these people you become successful, you work hard, you do these things, but then you look around you and you notice as you're doing this process, the streets are becoming like more and more people are sleeping in the streets, right? And you're kind of like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, it ain't popping.
I lost my point anyway. I kind of went off on a left turn. I forgot my point.
That's never happened before.
Oh, I do it all the time because I'm watching somebody else across the park. Watching somebody else out the park. Anyway, I'm not focused on the conversation. I'm distracted. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, we like to run a real tight ship here at Brandon's
Oh yeah,
server.
stay on
topic.
at all
I'm loose.
times.
I'm loose-lipped and monologue a lot, so I'm sure you guys are used to it by now.
Yes, we're aware of your tendencies, Data. But that's okay. Hey, how's your book coming?
Good. It was funny. I showed it to a couple of dudes today because I've been talking about it forever. And I said, look, it's real. It's real. Here, I went in my car and I brought it out. And I showed it to them. I went through a few pages and stuff. So it's there, but here's the problem. Here's the problem. I feel like I'll never be done because there are some calculations I can't figure out exactly. And so if I put forth a thesis and I'm not fully competent on all the equations, or at least competent enough to put forth my thesis on my equations, then I feel like this might be just a trial run because it's my first book, and I might get a feedback on what I'm putting out, so I might get it back. So I'm a little apprehensive because I'm not 100% certain on my thesis, my formulations, my thesis, and And then, you know, the candy stuff that's on top of it, the nonsense shit of other
Dude.
things, right?
That just paves the way for Flat Earth 2, the sequel. Okay.
Well, actually, let me hear this out. So I was also thinking of a bait click kind of title, because really, when I go do it, I'm going to be doing this probably a little bit. I'd be surprised if there's 10 books sold. But the point is that I want to have a bait click cover because it's sort of like the original title I had. I don't like it per se, but it was inspiring to research because it was that angle. The new cover I want to have kind of implies that I'm making fun of flat Earth, but when you open the book, you're like going to be dumbfounded because you're going to have to learn physics, mathematics, trigonometry, and you're actually going to have to learn this shit to understand what I'm saying. Because when I have given out the book to my friends and family, they literally tell me that I have to dumb it down because they can't understand it. So I don't know. I can't dumb it down. I have to explain exactly what's going on. I have to give you exactly the math. A lot of people don't know trigonometry. A lot of people don't math. A lot of people don't know the optics. None of that stuff. So it is kind of a bait click title where I'd be like, stupid flat earther. But then you open it up, and of course the front page, well, to your surprise, you're going to, you know, get a point of view that, you know what I mean? So I was looking at ideas to do that. I don't know if I'm going to, because I want people to buy it for the simple reason that they are implying every flat earther is dumb. But when they actually get into the book, they can see the story, because it's all about everybody involved. It's all the arguments, not everything. It's a summarization. But I want people to be interested in the title, to think something. It's kind of like you have an opinion of something until you read it and you go, okay, well, opinion's changed because, well, I didn't know that, or I didn't know this. That's kind of.
You got all the high ranked flat earthers in there named.
So
I'm the protagonist, right? I'm the hero.
So the ones that are named, I have a section on my book called Flat Earth 33, and you can read everybody's involved because it's all my interactions with everybody involved. I'm not, I'm just documenting shit and then telling you the conversations I had and the interactions. So there's a Flat Earth 33 section you can read about. There's United Nations section you can read about. There's like a section about the Canadian government. Because the idea of the book is to document real events that happened. So it's a history book, right?
He said 33 is a Mason sees him.
Well, flat Earth equals 33, right? I don't know if you know that, but flat Earth actually equals 33. So anyway, if I get a chance to get it done and I'm confident in it, I still feel that it's not. My formulations are nowhere near complete because there's just an element. Like I can't quantify the distance between the observer and the convergent point because of the atmosphere involved, or the atmos involved, like what's in it, the calculations for it. It's like ridiculous. I could have a crazy long ass formula, which other people have already done. So I think I'm being kind of redundant, but at the same time, I want to use just my point of view for the calculation, which.
Weren't you the one? Hold on, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Weren't you the one always saying that you had the math for the way your eye gets light, that 1.22 number, the globe stole it?
Yeah. So I already have that already done. But
that's like page 1, right?
Yeah. Well, not paid. Well, it's on. It's on. I can give you the list of the chapters later, but the introduction to the angular resolution formula, the comparison between the geometrical and the optical, and then I show that information. So I'm basically showing you potentially, you've already seen this stuff, I'm sure. There's other people that have done a version. I think Life Is did a version. He did his own calculations, which I don't use his method because I just use mine from the Rayleigh criterion and I derive everything from that. And then work backwards in trigonometry. So it's nothing new. It's nothing new. Like nothing I'm doing is new at all. That's the first thing I want to mention. Nothing I'm doing new. It's my interpretation of all the data, and I'm compiling it in what I feel is just a documented, the last 5 years documented. So maybe it's a memoir of my life for the last 5 years. I don't fucking know. The whole point is that there's.
You're synthesizing all the data. That's dope.
I got a
That's
cover idea for you, Data. You
Yeah.
nude holding a globe in front of your junk.
You know what? I might just do it, right? I might actually just do something that the thing is that I think it's disingenuous to call people inquisitive dumb. And so flat earthers are not dumb regardless of what they believe, because this is just really, when it comes down to it, it's a struggle for your thoughts. And the person who controls the way you think is the person that's winning over you.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So for me, it's not whether it's flat or globe, although it matters a great deal. It's just the opportunity to be exposed to the arguments and the truths about the arguments. That's the most important thing, because at the end of the day, I feel a person can believe whatever they should believe, but you should believe what you should believe if you're presented legitimate points of view. Right, and if you're denied those legitimate points of view, then where do you lie? You lie in a form of deception or misled, right?
You know what?
At least that's what I think.
You're hitting on something that I've been thinking a lot about lately, mostly because Adam Curtis, is that his name? Adam Curtis, the documentarian from England, harps on that over and over again, and he just put out a new 8-part or a 6-part documentary that's 8 hours long. It's called it's like supposed to be an emotional history of the world, and he talks a lot about how at some point governments realized that they couldn't change things. They couldn't create this wonderful society, this utopia with ideas. They couldn't sell us on ideas. So to control the population and to move things the way they wanted it to, they focused on manipulating our emotions and creating a dream reality that we could live on while they nudged us in whatever direction they wanted us to go by manipulating our emotions. It's really fascinating to think about, because that's exactly what they do.
Well, they put a device in our hands, right, to do that very thing. And it will be the undoing of society, really, the device in our hands. At the same time, without that device, I wouldn't have learned anything that I've learned, whether it would be good or bad or right or wrong. You can still learn wrong things and come out of it right by being corrected. So, that opportunity is great and all, but if you look at what's going on, it's simply a device now to remove truth. It's simply a device now to remove the ultimate truth, which is what they want, right? They don't want to have any truth anymore.
Right. Exactly. What's so funny that you say that is, according to him, Putin in the 90s set out to do just that. What he wanted to do was create an environment, a media environment, where there was obvious lies bandied about by both sides, both political parties, and no one could tell what the truth was, because it just wasn't available. There really was no truth to find out. It was just a bunch of nonsense and lies on both sides, right? So they would coalesce behind the person they had the most emotional connection with, which was him, obviously, at that point in time. So I think that's kind of what they're doing these days is they're putting out a bunch of lies. They're giving us, some emotional fuel to feed whatever side it is we want to go on. And they're watching as we all kind of tread water, making sure that no one group or no one side ever gets so much power that they can actually implement any of these ideas that would change society drastically and, challenge the status quo, etc.
Well, it's all about tribes, right? Tribalism and little tribes of people, tribes of groups. As long as you can keep you in tribes, then they can control every single group.
Yeah, it's kind of a divide and conquer, but, I caught myself thinking, I'm like, well, is that the best way to do things, really? Because every time one party or one power gets too much control in society, millions and millions of people die. It just turns into war, or they starve out or kill their enemies. And it's like, maybe we're better off in this kind of stasis where everyone's constantly struggling for power, but no one actually does get power. I haven't thought it through completely, but I was just wondering about that when I was watching his last documentary.
Well, there's always left, right, or left pendulum swing and right pendulum swing, right? In history, it's always been that way. So I see now the birth of the right pendulum coming, right? That's what I see happening. I see the rise of the right happening, and that's going to be just as big pendulum, just a bigger pendulum, just as the left was. You can't have the left pendulum without the right pendulum eventually.
Well, maybe
If
that's
you
why
mean
they're
China
attacking
by that, you're correct. Sorry, Brandon.
I was just going to say, maybe that's why they're attacking the right so vehemently. They see the pendulum swinging back that way. They're like, oh, we got to slow that down. We can't let that get too much momentum.
I think that's done now. I think when you look at something like Disney, just canceled that woman for posting a tweet, which the tweet was, "Hey man, if we start listening to media and we're convinced to hate our neighbors, that's how Nazi Germany started, right?" She got basically fired for that tweet, and so what she did is she stood up for Disney, because we're so used to people cowtailing, or whatever you call it, running away from, confrontation when it comes to the left. But it looks like now this particular actress in particular I'm mentioning from Mandalorian, she is now producing another movie and speaking out against it all, and like, you don't see that normally. At least the media not giving it as much attention, and now it's giving it attention. So slowly I start to see media giving little tidbits of right information, whereas before there was nothing of it. So it is starting, I think, and my fear is actually the right conservative swing might be more hand to nail kind of thing than the left, even, because the left is more psychological, right?
What do you see?
Right.
What do you see happening? What do you mean?
Well, if the pinnacle of the left swing, people should be at utter despair, committing suicide in droves, losing their minds, right? And then the right pendulum is going to come in and save people mentally that way. They're going to start saying correct things and start saying things that make sense and bring it back, right? After they've destroyed it, though. They can't come back until it's fully destroyed. It's like the psychology of the mind. So I think we're very close. Well, we did achieve it, I think. I think they achieved it when Biden initially allowed transgender men to enter into women's sports. And then I think now there's a state in the United States that just, Louisiana, I think, or one of the middle states, just passed a law that you have to compete in the sport based on your sex. So they're not acknowledging it. So that's a new. So right, we're standing up against this transgender movement. That's new. So I think it is starting to happen again, because we're starting to see the folly in the ideology of the left.
Interesting. Well, and we've seen the control that they have over Silicon Valley, mass media, Hollywood. They can influence things very heavily and move that middle mass that it seems to be fairly malleable in either direction they want. Like I always say, I think the true seat of their power is in that mass manipulation through media, Hollywood, newspapers, online, Silicon Valley, all that stuff.
Well, I have a theory that
even fiction.
I have a theory that is closely related to your paycheck. There's a lot of people that, well, not a lot, but there's a few people that I knew personally that just kept their mouth shut just to get the paycheck. So there's that complacency and that contentment to allow it to continue because of money.
Oh yeah, people got to feed their family. Hell yeah.
Well,
and I understand. That's why I don't get. I used to get angry at them.
Sign non-disclosure agreements with
Yeah.
most people. I mean, I've signed hundreds in a day. I mean, and I keep signing them. I have no choice.
Well, yeah,
Right.
if you're doing something that's related to future release, yeah.
Or what you're doing for them.
What's that, Jimbo?
A lot of people don't want you talking about what you do for them or that you work for them. Even it's just
Even when you do independent film, and if you're under a label or a label's paid you, you have to put a disclaimer that the film that you're doing is nowhere near the representation of the company that's produced it. So you have these disclaimers, right? Kind of protect the credibility or the integrity of the business that's hired the independent filmmaker.
Yeah, a bunch of legal crap. Yeah, I get it.
Well, everybody's just protecting their own, right? So, but I think the right pendulum is starting now. I think it's this week in particular, or last week in particular. I think it seems that way. So that's a good news. Kind of coincides with the impeachment fiasco number 2.
Oh, what a joke!
So, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, the whole politics thing is just I don't know too many people who aren't completely jaded by politics anymore.
Well, you know, it's funny. I
believe political change can take place through mainstream politics.
True. I asked a guy the other day. I said, "Hey, man, do you know the difference?" Because he's not a fan of Trump, right? And I said, "Well, do you know Biden's policies at all? Because what does it have to do with anything?" I was like, "Wait a sec. You think Donald Trump's a bad guy, and why do you think he's a bad guy?" He said, "Because this is what he said. He goes, because he killed people with COVID." And then I said, wait a sec. I said, he killed people with COVID, but do you understand Biden's policy? So people don't know. It's purely emotional feelings. If Donald Trump did like the high school bully attitude or the mocking attitude or something, it would offend people just on his characteristics, not on his policies or what he did. And I'm like, this is where we're at. I can't believe this is where we're at. Even old men that are supposed to be wise can't see the deception. Right? Old men, they're supposed to be wise and know better, look at it and go, he killed people from COVID. I don't like him. But meanwhile, Biden is, passing executive orders to allow grown men to compete in women's sports.
The whole 6 years, if you think about it, was exactly how I described what Putin was doing in the 90s, how Adam Curtis described it. It was all emotionally driven. The whole Trump support and Trump hate, both sides, it was all emotionally driven through media and social media manipulation.
100%, yeah. Crazy how good they were at doing it, the divide, because even my partner says, the divide is real. The divide is real, because she didn't notice half of the things until I brought it to her attention, and now she cannot not unsee it. And, all I had to do was actually just show some facts. Thankfully, the facts, because to be honest, there's, any president, sitting president, you're supposed to honor and respect. But at the end of the day, they're put in place to a certain degree by the uppers, and they're both doing a job. Look at their policies. Trump's policies were better than Biden's. I don't care about personality or character-wise. The policies were better than Biden's, right? And then you got people, like the race hustlers that we have. We got race hustlers now looking at all the famous black artists we have, all the famous black men we have, all the famous football stars we have, and yet we're a racist society. Like, where's the reason and logic? Where has it gone? And it's not coming back. Because Brandon, you said it. We're in the psyop of all psyops, because they're trying to destroy Western society and all of its values. They're trying to get rid of it all. And the only way to do that is test every facet of it. Families, jobs, mom and dad structures, teaching your little boy that he could... I don't even want to say it,
No, I hear you. Yeah. And it hasn't escaped me either that they're now on the sly, not so subtly, implementing universal basic income in the United States. I don't know if they're doing that in Canada or whatever, but they've already given us all 2 payments. So they've kind of gotten people used to getting money from the government on a regular basis. And now they're going to take it a step further and give out a huge chunk to people. Plus, for every kid you have, they're going to give you I think it's $250 to $300 a month. This was the plan maybe 4 or 5 days ago. So I haven't looked, but it sounded like this was going to be the one that they're going to pass. They're going to give you a tax credit in the form of a monthly payment based on the number of children you have.
Well, there you go. You offer a big piece of cake. Somebody's going to take the cake. You're not going to refuse somebody cake.
No, and I can't fault anybody for taking the money. Shit, if this corrupt government is going to give us some of our money back, fucking take it, right? The less of it they have, the better.
I've heard that time and time again. I got a buddy who basically, wants to leave Canada and go live somewhere else because of all the policies, but he can't leave because he's like, I can't leave yet. I'm going to get my free money from the government. He's basically going to take the money and fuck off to a foreign country. That way his money goes along a lot farther, and then he's going to come back to Canada. He's been doing that for the last, I don't know, a year or so. And then the Serb thing happened. He came back to collect his coronavirus money and then fuck off back to the foreign country where the money goes farther. He's like, if they're going to fuck me with a job, they're going to do this to me. I'm just going to take the money and go live elsewhere. So if you go from a place that costs you, I don't know, $55 a day to something that costs you $16 a day, your $8,000 you got from the Serb payments is going to go, quite a bit farther. You're going to have a time of your life, right? So they're going to give you all that money and it's going to do nothing because inflation's going to eat it all up. So it's just the guys. Your loaf of bread will be $6. Your milk will be $9. Your jam will be $8. Your bananas will be $15. Like, it doesn't matter if they give you free money. The inflation's going to rob it from you, take it from you. And they know it.
Well, for some reason, they think, I don't know if they want to crush it or what their plan is, but they don't seem to be worried about printing however much money they want at all.
Well, isn't that digital currency now? Isn't that fully fledged? Aren't you getting the idea that it's now digitally full-fledged? When they say that the floodgates are open and it's unlimited cash, that's as digital as you get.
No shit.
Because at least with paper printing, you have a serial number for that paper printed. There's no serial number created for digital currency. It's just a one more extra.
Exactly. So I don't know what they're doing, but if anybody is under the impression that we're not already a centrally controlled society, and I'm not just talking about the United States, then I think you got another thing coming, because if it looks like it and smells like it and it behaves like it, it's definitely centrally controlled. And all signs tell me that this is a centrally controlled society and has been for a long time. This
the only way
about democracy and voting for one side or the other, that's just a front they give us to make us think that we have a choice or a show. It's a show.
It's to keep the masses at bay, for sure. Yeah. If the United States was the first country in the modern world to stand up to its politicians, like it did, 300, 250 years ago, or wait, a little longer than that. Yeah, right. When was the revolution? 250 years ago.
1776.
Yeah. So there you go. So when America starts to do that again, stand up, arrest the politicians, start having accountability for our leaders, reduce all the taxes that have been burdened on the taxpayer, go back to opening jobs and prosperity, and leave out the nonprofit organizations. Like, look, man, a lot of these nonprofit organizations are doing this because it's a way to have the big companies fund these third parties without being accountable.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I'm going on a tangent, but well, I hope to God, I pray to God that you guys stand up. Somebody stands up. I got a buddy of mine who keeps constantly texting me shit regarding QAnon crap. I believe it, man. I believe it. They're going to arrest them. And if that's the case, wow. Right. But I doubt it, man. Unless I just see George Soros arrested or, somebody of that nature arrested and all the charges come to fruition, then it's going to go that path. So I pray to you guys that you guys stand up.
I just can't imagine anything. They've been talking about, believe in the plan and it's going to happen anytime now. And it's coming for Trump's entire presidency. He's not even president anymore. And they're still talking about believe in the plan and stuff. I'm sorry, but I don't have that much faith that I'm going to sit around. How many more years are you going to sit around waiting for somebody else to do it?
That's the psyop, isn't it? It's the idea that you're going to fill the individual with hope and hope that somebody's doing something, and they're going to have what's called the bystander syndrome, which is basically you see something that's atrocious, but then you look at the other person and go, oh, he'll take care of it. And it's a real term, I guess, psychologically that we all have. And that now, because of our lifestyles, like basically the most poorest person in a civilized world will actually live better than a king in the 1500s, right? He gets his welfare checks, his bag of Doritos, his big fat TV screen, and his video games all day long. He's living like a king, 10 times a king would in the 1500s.
Oh, no doubt. We're all very comfortable. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some people who are going through hard times, but in the United States, on average, people are living pretty dang well. Even people who are in poverty.
Obesity wouldn't be an issue, right? If people weren't doing very well. Consumption of food is because the United States produces that much food.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly.
there you go.
There's plenty of food to go around for everybody. I know there's people that somehow still find a way to be starving, and it's mostly just situational. Yeah, I mean, we're doing pretty good all in all. There's really not, when I think about my life and the hardships that I see firsthand, I don't have a lot to complain about. I really don't have jackboot thugs knocking my door down. It's kind of marginal stuff. It's where we see things headed that I'm worried about. Them taking rights away, that kind of thing. As things are right now in the United States, in my opinion, they're not that bad. They're pretty dang good. Speaking from a historical and a global perspective, we've got it pretty damn good. I don't know if anybody disagrees with me on that, but yeah, bullshit.
Anybody driving down
There's
the
a lot
streets,
of bullshit. It's all corrupt and it's all fucked up, but life's not pretty good here.
In a general sense, the idea is that when you drive down the street in a normal day, in a normal city, it's pretty damn good. But if you go look at cities that are being used politically, like New York and California, New York, why? The real estate there is so corrupt. It's so blown out of proportion. They have no way to reset the real estate property value there other than to do what they're doing. You've got places that, okay, so basically the idea is that these insurance companies go in, they value your place per month, what it's worth. And so they give you a title on their house, the value of it based on what you can rent it per square foot. While some of these places were like 100 to 200 square feet. So now the insurance companies can't reevaluate the square footage of these businesses because then their houses, these properties won't be valued as much. And and if that's the case, they immediately go to their client that they borrowed the money to and say, you need to cover the balance because the property isn't worth 100 square foot anymore. It's only worth 40. So you need to just pay us the 40 difference. And it's basically driving people to walk up to these loan companies and hand over the keys and businesses to the lease and go, fuck you, let's see you in court. Because under normal circumstances, these people that took on these leases in the property in New York would be able to complete business transaction as usual and pay the debt. But because the government put in these policies and procedures, they fucked over these business people, thereby destroying all of New York property value. Same thing with California. They have to destroy the property value with California, so they flood it with poor. Make everything so unaffordable, they flood it with poor. Because everything is overinflated. Most analysts and stock guys that are like, portfolio managers that are like, do mom and pop portfolios, they literally are complaining. They literally say, there's no room for growth. We're like, where are we going to go? More up? More up? They literally are saying this shit. So they're like telling everybody they have to do this reset because everything is this exponential prices, property, stocks, right? It's like grown to astronomical proportions and it doesn't match the economy. It doesn't match the GDP. It doesn't match, it's all this overdriven speculation. So
right. Oh, the speculation's out of control, even in the cryptocurrency. Everywhere you look at the speculations just skyrocketing.
You want to do something good for a cool show, maybe, is look at 1929 and the cross similarities. 1929, everybody under the sun were trading stocks. We're talking barbers. We're talking housewives. What do you think they're bringing back, bro? They're bringing back cryptocurrency again to do the same thing. So they're going to draw everybody in, just like they did in 1929. There's going to be JP Morgan. So listen, guys, this is what JP Morgan's saying. JP Morgan's saying there's going to be a 12-year bull run on energy and all these other commodities like copper,
bull
minerals.
Run starting now?
Yep. 12-year bull run on minerals like copper, anything to do with EV related vehicles, conductors, semiconductors, anything to do with cobalt, lithium. It's going to be a 12-year bull run. And the idea behind it all is China's going to buy all the minerals up from the United States and all the minerals up from Canada, oil, you name it, and be the mass supplier. China is expanding all of their reserves when it comes to oils and minerals. So China is going to be the major purchaser from all of it, because when 2030 comes, they don't want anybody to own anything. China will be the supplier of everything, oil, minerals. I mean, China, Russia, Iran, Sudan, Middle East, that kind of chamber, right? So,
well, we'll see. That would suck for everybody to, get all their money in there and then the rug get pulled out from under us. But that's happened over and over and over again. If you think just in the last 20 years, it's happened like 3 times, right? 2008.
Yeah, whenever they crash the market on purpose sometimes.
Well, 2008.
If you think about it, these people hold on a second. These people are sitting on tons of cash. So what better to expand their power, expand their reach, than to crash the stock market, have these good companies be worth a lot less, then they can snatch them up for pennies on the dollar and build that money stack to do it all over again and just keep,
It's exactly right. For the first time ever, or sorry, I shouldn't say the first time ever. That's what they say. The left has accumulated a massive amounts of money, world history money. The Democratic Party, because of all the big tech, everything they've had their hands in for the last decade. So what a society wants to do is always drive debt. Debt is always controlling their world, right? So they have 2 forms of debt. You have debt based on your credit, and then you have how did it work? Debt based on your credit, debt based on your asset. So you could own something that's an asset, but it still costs you money. So it's not an asset; it's a depreciation, or it's not a depreciation. It's a liability. So you only have an asset, but it's a liability because you have to pay for it every month, right? What they want to do is they don't want to give you any assets anymore based on your credit. This whole transaction that's going on right now, this whole great reset, is taking it from the LIBOR system to the SOFR system, from lending on credit score and then lending on debt or lending on assets. So in other words, if you have nothing, you can't get any credit because you have no assets. But how they want to make money is all debt collection. So what they've noticed is that everybody goes out and buys all these cars on credit and never pays the loan back. So they want to go back and they want to allocate all that debt and come back for it all to repossess it. That's the new system. New system is all going to be about repossessing all of your debt that you owe and having to pay for it. So it isn't going to be this capitalist, go out and make your own kind of money and borrow credit from a bank idea. At least that's the idea they say it's going to be. It's going to be based on your whatever assets you have, and if you owe debt, you need to fork over your assets to pay back your debt. So they're going to repo everybody's shit. According to international law that China's writing right now. China's writing international laws. Hey, I don't know if you guys know this, but they're writing international laws that if anybody criticizes China overseas, they can be arrested. Regarding your property.
What? What do you mean international law? Like through the UN or what?
China's writing their own laws, dude. Go look it up. They're writing their own laws. They don't give a fuck what anybody's saying about them. Their own laws. One of their own laws that I recollect.
You're telling me if someone says like China sucks and their people smell bad, they can
they're writing international law for the future, so that if you say anything, they can come and arrest you based on their law.
In America,
anywhere in the world, dude.
And then bring me to China.
I don't know about that, but I'm just saying that's what they're writing now. So they're planning to be rulers of the world, right? You always heard that China's going to take over the world one day. All the business guys.
Yeah, you can write shit on paper,
1.4 billion people or some crap like that. I mean,
you can write that down on paper that it's a law, and you come get me and shit. But implementing it is another thing.
I get it, but I'm just saying that there are people in power right now that are exposing themselves. This is all by design. This is intentional because it's all predictive, right? Predictive programming, or what do you call it? Preemptive programming. They're telling you so that you're not, when it happens, you're not, oh, they fucking told me. You know what I mean?
China, 1.4 billion people. They've got 4 times as many as the United States. I've always wondered what would happen if China flexed their muscle. And you think about what's going on over there. They've got this space agency, and they're like putting out the same propaganda that we did in the 60s. And you listen to it, and I'm like, gosh, this sounds a lot like the United States, maybe 30, 40 years ago, the way they're talking, very jingoistic. They're way more jingoistic than we are right now, in my opinion. Like,
how do you envision this happening? China go like tanks and helicopters and stuff, or?
Dude, I don't know, but they could just run a wall of people, into Russia, and then tanks, whatever. Maybe they got some new jets. They got some smart guys over there, right? They probably stole all our plans already. Build some fucking awesome
they
jets.
don't have. Maybe I don't think they have anything close to what we're packing, but
there's a site you should check out. It's called military.com. I don't know if it has relation to what ties it has, but under I think it's military.com. It gives you news, international news and local news. There's some interesting things on the recent headlines. Something about DARPA versus Canada.
Is this a military.com? Is this a private one or is this government run? Gotta be private, right? You read this data? This military.com? I lose you guys?
I check it.
Oh,
I check it out here and there. But it's just interesting, some of the title, because it's not normal headlines. At least Canada versus DARPA. I don't really see a lot of media talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, interesting. I'll have to check that out. But no, I don't know if China's ever going to actually do it. I'm just saying, it seems like they would be able to. They could put together an army of like 100 million people, right?
And then what? Texas could shut that down.
Yeah, the guns alone in Texas, dude. Forget it.
I don't know, man.
Well, the only way they do it, dude, is by mass destruction. That's it. By dropping.
You got to get through
massive amounts of
America's
bombs.
You'd have to get through America's defense, all the subs, the aircraft carriers, the choppers, the helicopters, fucking SWAT, special forces, like all. There's no way. The only way you're going to attack America is guerrilla warfare. That's it. You ain't lining up tanks on the battlefield or getting your boats out or your little helicopters and shit and thinking you're going to come over here and fucking start fucking with us.
I don't know, man.
Like straight up. You know how much we spend on the military budget? It's like 300 billion or something, no?
No, I know. No, it's more than that. It's more than that. It's like 700 or 800, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you ain't getting past that.
But dude, they got one
alone doesn't do anything though. You need how many people do you think a aircraft carrier could handle, or a helicopter, or a tank, or I
don't know. We shipped out a lot of people during World War II. We didn't have a ton of ships, did we? Or I mean, a ton of aircraft carriers at that time.
Yeah, that was different though.
I'm just saying.
Nowadays we have a gun that can one troop can shoot in the air and take out a field of tanks. Like, this is not going down like people think it is anymore. That kind of warfare is over.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably a whole different ball game than it was in World War II, I'm sure.
You got rail guns, heat-seeking missiles and shit, like all type. There's an aircraft carrier where we own within like a 400-kilometer diameter. Anywhere this aircraft carrier goes, like nothing's getting in or out that we don't want.
And it'd probably be mostly air warfare. I mean, yeah, there's an ocean in the middle, right? So they're probably not going to be landing too many people on our beach, but I don't know.
I just don't. I don't think the amount of people helps. Like if you had if you had 1.4 billion people, and then you had 1.4 billion planes behind them to swoop in something like that, that might be tricky, but I don't know what's going to be left after that. Anyways, you think we're just going to lay down and die to China? Like now you got to fight a war with all the people that are here, like Texas and New York with all our guns and shit. Like you ain't. It'd be too much.
They could probably roll over like I don't know about Russia. They could do some damage over there if they wanted to, don't you think?
Any other country, yeah, sure. Go ahead. They'd probably take over the UK tomorrow if they wanted to, but America's a whole different ballgame. We ain't even in the same league.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. I get what you're saying.
Like the amount of people doesn't matter unless you have the stuff for them to for them to come with. And even then, we got like rail guns and shit and all kinds of fucking missiles and shit. Like they ain't getting through. And I'm sure we would see on our, I'm sure we would see them doing things that, we would get ready for it. It's not like they're just going to pop out of some secret underground bunker with fucking a billion planes coming at us within, even if we only had a few hours preparation, I'm sure we could get a grip on it. We're going to have at least hours. And, how long does it take to fly from China to here?
Well, Mark Collins got a good point. What about all the people, what are the chances they have people living here, but are loyal to the homeland already? They've already got a lot of people.
That's the only way. That's the only way you can do something. I said it earlier, guerrilla warfare.
Well, and that's how you could get even all our politicians and shit too, economic warfare.
No doubt.
That's what we're experiencing now, right? That's what this is all about.
Yeah, I think so. They probably already owned half of our frickin' congressmen and shit, right?
So I was going to ask you for a show idea. Do you think globers and flat earthers I'm going to call them globos. Do you think, or I should say globozos. That's what I meant. Globozos. Do you think they'll ever find anything in common, like common truths would be like, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal. Like there should be the idea would be come together for common truths and then pick one particular truth and figure out what's true about it. That makes sense?
Related to the shape of the earth, or like come to an unrelated agreement on something?
Okay, so you build a conversation out with common truths, right? And then as we depart from these common truths, we find problems. So for instance, let's say we start with a few questions. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. How would you relate this? I guess I haven't thought it through clearly. You would ask another question that would, there'd be truth in it, right? Like an objective truth versus a subjective interpretation of an objective truth. In other words, the subjective truth for an individual is, for a glober, he sees the sun and stars move, therefore he applies that the world is spinning, right? That's a subjective truth for him. Objectively, we don't see the rotation. We see the sun and the celestial bodies move, right? Would correct that's an objective observation, or is that a subjective observation? Because I'm not interpreting anything, I'm just observing it. It's the person who's observing it that's interpreting it, therefore it's becoming subjective. No? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yes,
I guess so.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, so if we were to build a conversation on basic truths, and of course the conversation is about the principle, the primitive thought, right? The first thought of it. So, like I said, thou shalt not kill, What would be a common truth about our observation of the celestial bodies? Is it true that we see the celestial bodies move? Is that do you understand? Could there be a common truth in there or no? Could it be objectively common true, or is it always subjective? Does that make sense? Anyone? Am I just drawing a blank here?
Sorry, I got distracted. I was hoping Effie was going to continue to answer.
Well, yeah, I've had this argument. No, Dad, I've had this argument with people on exactly that point. You know, you look to the sky, everything in the sky moves: stars, sun, moon, birds, aeroplanes. Everything moves in the sky, and yet from that somehow the outcome is, other than the birds and the aeroplanes, it's us that's moving, not the things in the sky. But objectively, it's the sky that seems to be moving, but subjectively, it's whatever you want it to be. So they've been convinced of the movement of the Earth, which they don't feel or see or experience, but subjectively, they've determined that that's what's going on. I'm moving, and the celestial objects are stationary, which is just totally counterintuitive, like so many things in that model. Everything of your reality and experience is actually deceiving you intentionally, and you have to disregard all of your first-hand sensory experience and just believe what we tell you. That's kind of how I sum it up.
Right. Do you think I'm maybe labeling it wrong as a common truth? Like when I say "thou shalt not kill," that's not necessarily a common truth, is it? It's a agreed upon. Like a flat earther and a globe head can agree on that point, that you should not kill somebody, right?
Then
we can get into
universal value.
Yeah,
exactly.
But also,
that's where you start. Right?
But that also depends on your worldview. Like that almost bends into the spiritual. You know, if I live in a feudal African tribe, well, "thou shalt not kill" probably isn't such a big deal to me.
No, granted, but just I'm talking about in this particular box, if you will, it's glober and flat earther. So we're sort of in the modern world together. We're subjected to all the same content. We can read the same documentation. There should be some common truths that we could start to build off. And then when we start asking more difficult questions, where do we diverge? And why do we diverge? And that's because it's subjective, right? That's the initial reason for it, because that subjectivity is based on other people's conclusions. And therefore, you take on that subjectivity once you're convinced of those conclusions, right? Either one paradigm, I'm sure it's all going to be subjective, but building the common truths first, getting us together first, right?
Yeah.
Because the idea is we're all apart already, so let's come together first. Because let's look. Go ahead. Sorry.
So where do you think the divergent point between the globe and the flat earth is? Because I have in my mind where I think it starts from. But where do you think it would be if we were to have that conversation with some globers?
Well, I think with the acknowledgement of the overall packaging is of thoughts. In other words, you can have this ideology packaged nicely, and you can have this ideology packaged nicely. I think if we sum up the beginning of our thoughts as ideologies or philosophies or, basically philosophies, we can start there. Then we can say, well, how did you come to that philosophical idea of life, right? Then we can find common truths there. Through the building block of coming together, we should be able to find out where we diverge, instead of trying to come together when we're already diverged. Is the point? Because truthfully, my motivation for my book is to kind of highlight both ideas that are flawed in certain regards, but there is a common truth that's going to come out ahead, and that is just the objective reality that we live in, not the metaphysical, philosophical world they want us to live in.
But Data, you understand that the problem is they think their entire model is objective reality. They don't have a point where they say, here's where I add my subjectivity. Most of them, they'll tell you that it's all backed up by data, that it has to be that way.
Well, if we were to come to I think it's harder to. I think it's easier to start off diverged in conversation than battle it out than it is to come to some common truths and then try to diverge. Because once you come together with common truths, you can't get away with being deceptive or intellectually dishonest, right? Because you've now come together with common truths, so you understand you're on the same page. So when you say that they have, they believe it's objective reality, then we have to go to at least one of those common truths. What about the ball is objective reality to them? And then do we have a common truth in that? Right? And if we don't, figure out where we diverge in that common truth, right? Because if they're not going to be willing or able to admit, because it really just comes down to being able to admit that it's an idea, it's a philosophy, right?
Exactly. That's the part I think that we'll run into trouble at, because I know the point where I would go, okay, this I haven't found any experimental evidence to think otherwise, to think either way, and I come down subjectively on the side of it's a flat plane, and that would for me would be Polaris, because and the interpretation of long distance sight angles. I think that is one of the inflection points where you can go either way. You can either interpret the angles that you see the celestial objects at as being due to the shape of the ground you're on, or that's just the natural pattern that they take due to optics and perspective and the way we see the world. And
or how about the fact that they've always accounted the celestial sphere above Earth? So they've always accounted for there to be a sphere of type outside of the stars, like the celestial sphere, right?
Yeah.
So you may say that it's the path of the Earth shape, but yet again, all literature says that was a celestial sphere above, which would give it that circular path, that curved path. So not talking about Earth, talking about the stars. They're in a celestial sphere. That's what was written and measured and quantified years ago before they came up with the rotating Earth in it, right? So they, like, again, is it the celestial sphere that's causing it, or is it perspective causing it? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So there you go. Right? So is it a combination of two? It has to be, because when you go to measure stars or anything for traveling in distance, you can't do it. You have to do it 15 degrees above the horizon. And then you find out why that is. It's because there's major refraction there. Things are fucking bending down. So if you're trying to measure a star inside that refraction zone, you're not measuring the right angle to it because it's refracted down. So you're not going to get the right calculation.
Yep.
Right? So anyway, yeah.
Well, and you know, I've asked for people to point me to because their model of Polaris is, or at least the one they try to sell us on for the flat Earth, is that it doesn't work because we should be able to use straight trigonometry to determine the one position where Polaris is based on where multiple observers on the Earth see it. So if I have a person at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 degrees latitude, and they're all looking at Polaris and they tell me the direction, I should be able to triangulate the actual position of Polaris.
It's because they're using their model of the sky when they tell you that.
Right.
Did you ever see
they think that it should adhere, these site-based angular measurements should be, they apply straight trigonometry and to these, and they think, well, if it doesn't work using this straight trigonometry, then it couldn't possibly work on a flat plane. I haven't seen the experimental evidence to say that we should be able to do that.
Well, again, you still have to assume a certain distance to Polaris, right? Now, Captain Cook, if you ever rig up Captain Cook's travel charts, it was latitude lines only, straight latitude lines, right? So he navigated based on Polaris using latitude straight lines, grid system. Even Eratosthenes used the grid system when he was using longitude and latitude over. I think it was Eratosthenes that did it. When you look up coordinate systems, one of the first came from him, I think. Supposedly that's what's written. But there's straight lines and square grids. So they're basing everything off of straight lines and angles. So it tells you right in their maps. So I don't know what the problem is if they're saying it doesn't work when their maps itself are two-dimensional.
Yeah, well, it doesn't work if you apply straight trigonometry like that to a flat plane. It doesn't work. That is true.
Well,
my contention what makes you think it should work?
Well, I can tell you that on basic application of angles and heights of objects, I know the distance to it on two-dimensional map. So, for instance, I think I've said this before. If I was walking in the woods and I used my hand, I could basically calculate the degree of that mountain. As long as my map would show the elevation height, I could determine my distance to it, and it's just straight lines and angles. So practicality of trigonometry works fine on a flat plane. The difference is, and this is what you want to verify, is that calculus fails over a certain distance. And you need calculus to make it more accurate.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
This is by their own admission. Now, why does trigonometry fail at certain distances? I can't tell you that. All I do know is that anytime you do trigonometry, you're showing converging lines. Like when our reality, nothing converges, right? So you're when I calculate the distance for an observer on the horizon, I'm using, like, if I say I'm 6 feet high and it's 15,000 feet away, I'm going to get an angle degree of 0.0213 or something, 217. But those lines aren't converging. So I'm measuring something that's imaginary, or not imaginary, but optical. So it has to fail at some point, because we have atmospheric inclusions, and we don't live on a perfectly flat Earth. So there has to be imperfections in the measurement using trigonometry, and they've proved that by using calculus to fine tune it.
So you think it's due to atmospherics that it fails?
Actually, it's funny because well, it has to be one of thing for true angles, because refraction causes dips, which would make your straight line bend. So trigonometry doesn't account for that refraction. You have to add that in into your calculation.
It also wouldn't work if you're looking at a reflection up in the sky. If you try to triangulate a reflection, you get it coming up like Polaris in all different spots.
That's if you have multiple observers seeing one apparent position. Yeah, that's what they say. I haven't done it. I've looked at the data. Like when Flat Earth began, there was a couple of guys that were coming together measuring sun angles. But then you look at the tools they're measuring, the time of day they're measuring, the weather they're measuring. There's you need so much data to get an average or a constant to calculate it. You can't just do it in a week. At least I don't think you can.
Yeah. Well, the part where that breaks down is their assumption that should work. That you should be able to triangulate to the celestial objects like that. I just don't know what we would base that on. Either you take that at face value that you should be able to do that, or you don't. So I think that's where the subjectivity comes in. Do you want to believe that you should be able to do that? Because I don't know what you're basing that on, unless you're just basing it on local measurements of tangible things on the face of the earth. But
Brandon, in their model of the sky, they'd be right. If everything's working just like they say in the sky, then this triangulation thing they're talking about probably should work. But if it doesn't work like they say it does in the sky, then what? Well, their shit doesn't mean nothing. It's all based on more assumptions.
Well, here's the thing that I notice is that on basic trigonometry here on Earth is fine. If I'm walking around and I want to know the distance of something, as long as I got the height, I can measure the degree with my hand and know the distance. With the celestial sphere, it's not straight lines. It's literally a curved, they're calling the celestial sphere, it's not operating as Euclidean none. Right? And I think that's the whole issue with Euclid's fifth postulate and parallel lines, they're called the parallel line postulate, is they were looking on the local level and saying everything's Euclidean, but up in the planets, it can't be Euclidean because of a celestial sphere, right? So they had to come up with a way to translate and to get away from straight lines and angles. And there you get hyperbolic, calculations, or manifold, Riemann's manifold, which is the WGS 84 mathematical abstract of the ball as an ellipsoid.
Much easier just to say that we're living on a giant ball.
Well, I know that they map. I know that they map the celestial sphere to the body of Earth. So,
when did they develop the latitude lines? When were those created? When was that system first used?
Well, I know that changed. The Greenwich time was the end game, and I think that was around wasn't it around 1700s as well? Because it was in 3 different locations, and then they end up at London. They ended up there, and I think it was the 1700s, if I'm not mistaken.
I just did a little search on it, and it says this is the Columbus Dispatch. Who created the system of latitude and longitude lines? The Phoenicians used the heavens to calculate latitude, as did the Polynesians.
Yeah, it all started out with latitude lines first. The longitude line, a chronograph. I think the birth of the chronograph was something that I gotta go back and read this shit. Yeah, this is fascinating stuff. I forget. I'm going to shut up now. You go ahead and read.
Yeah, I'm just reading through it. That's fine.
It was used to keep time. The chronograph.
No, yeah, but on a ship, dude. On a ship, it was designed to keep your position.
Yeah, that was much later. That was in the 1700s.
The chronograph was for time, I thought. No.
Yeah, you're right. Chronometer. Is this what this was calling it?
Chronometer.
Yeah, that wasn't it for ships? Right? God, I can't remember.
This is just a stub, so it doesn't really say that much, but that's how I remember it too. They used it. They wanted more accurate navigation when they were shipping or going across the ocean. Yeah.
And that had to do with the longitude lines, something like that.
Yeah, that was with the longitude lines. Yep, they needed the time to get the correct longitude. But I'm very curious about how they designed the latitude lines. Because if that came first, it's just a simple calculation of, okay, we've gone this far, and Polaris drops in the sky this far. If we go this far away, the sun drops in the sky. You know what I mean? It'd all be based on... Yeah,
of course. They reverse mapped it. Yep.
Yeah, it'd just all be based on Polaris. And then when they got around to trying to figure out what shape the Earth is, and they try to use trigonometry to, let's see if we can triangulate to it. This should work. Oh no. But if you turn it into a ball, that solves your problem. That resolves the discrepancy, and the shape of the ground becomes the shape of the calculation that corrects your use of trigonometry. Does that make sense? I didn't state it too well. But
but I haven't seen the formulation either way. I know that this argument has been brought up, but I've heard the exact same thing, but I haven't seen the solution, because it's something to do with the 23.4 degree tilt. That's what the globe offers in the calculation of the trigonometry function, something like that. But I haven't seen the calculations or formulations to see that to fruition, to understand this point.
Yeah.
All I know is the correct trigonometry with calculus to get it more accurate. I can't remember why trigonometry fails, though, at certain distances, but it has nothing to do... I don't think it has anything to do with the shape of the Earth, right?
Well, it would fail. Yeah, on the globe, it would obviously fail. If you were trying to triangulate to Polaris, it would fail. Because obviously it's dropping away because the Earth is curving. The further you get away from it, the farther it gets. Your 90 degrees is different, right? So if you try to draw your triangle, you can't triangulate it without taking the curve into account.
Yeah, but what's causing the curve? Is it refraction or a physical curve?
I don't know. That's the question. That's what I'm. Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Is it physical curve or is it refraction? Did they just say?
I just said to you that even Bernard Riemann said that at a local level everything's Euclidean, but it couldn't be that two parallel lines don't converge. Can't be that way, right? Yeah. So. But that's not reality. Reality is parallel lines do converge, or apparently converge. They don't converge, is what I'm saying. They only appear to converge. And so if you look at refraction is something that's straight, that's bending due to refraction. So if you're going to add these straight lines and angles, but then you're adding it to something that has refraction or bending lines, then your trigonometry will fail indubitably, right?
That
So,
could be one reason. Yeah, that could definitely be
Of-
one reason. Yeah.
of course, if you're trying to measure something flat and straight, Euclidean's perfect. As soon as you add refraction into it, and this is the issue too with the formulation with optics and horizon. For instance, at a certain height, you'll see a certain distance away, but based on weather conditions, it could be closer or farther. And this can be regulated by or observed and measured by putting markers. But then again, to develop any kind of constant, like what Travis is doing, is brilliant, because he's going to create a body of evidence that will have data that will be able to develop a constant from it. If he starts putting down the lenses he's using, the focal length that he's using, and the aperture size, plus the time and date, they'll be able to quantify that data to show you on what weather condition, how far you can see. Like visibility is already known, right? We already have 0% visibility, 10% visibility information because they understand our eyesight already. So anyway, I think Travis is collecting all the right data. It's just hard to. I'm not sophisticated. I don't think I'm mentally sophisticated enough or Einsteinian enough to conjure these formulas I need. At least I can't see it yet. So.
You just don't understand.
Yeah, that's what it is. At least I'm trying to understand, right? I mean, I fell in love with formulas again and algebra, and even though I'm I'm a newbie at it all, I fell in love with it again, and that has to do because of flat Earth. So that's awesome.
Flat Earth made me care about a lot of shit I never thought about before too. For sure.
Do you know what?
Straight
do you know
up,
what's,
yeah,
do you
straight
know
up. My wife thinks I'm nuts. But this
Yep.
is great what we're doing here and all that. But where the fuck is Ruhif? We got your bullshit logical syllogism or whatever the fuck you wanted, and now you're hiding.
I haven't seen him around today.
Does it say something, the fact that we can have like these long, drawn out discussions about all kinds of different things, but they seem to only get riled up about specifically the flat Earth thing? I don't know if it means something.
I've talked to Gem Panda about the Great Reset, and he lost his shit.
Oh,
He wanted to deny it. Said, "You don't know. This is not what they're talking about. You're exaggerating." And all I was doing was presenting their video.
Jim Panda sir literally doesn't believe a single conspiracy. Like they're conspiracy opposites.
But why don't
that's
why don't they
that's
focus
best
on
put.
it
Yeah.
then? Like, why is it that they specifically select out the flat Earth thing and just go hard on it, just like crazy, and then they don't like? Yeah, they disagree with people on the conspiracy stuff, but they don't seem to really get into it. I'm wondering why.
That because they're so ingrained with it, because of all the brainwashing that they believe that, hey, this should be really easy to help these people out, and then they fail.
They are like
other than that,
very much
I don't
of
know
the
why.
belief that they have.
Yeah,
like,
but Gem
science
Panda wouldn't
behind
lie.
them, huh?
Gem Panda wouldn't lie so much. Then it wouldn't be such a struggle as what he's shown to go through, right?
I agree.
So, look, I think at the end of the day, there was a pocket for entrepreneurship, for fringe ideas, and anybody willing to capitalize and put their effort to it will probably be rewarded. And there's nothing wrong with that in a capitalistic society. The idea is truth is being destroyed, and this is how it goes. This is how they're doing it, essentially, right? So, at least this is what I see. The end game is just destroy all the truth, because they can't have a great reset without doing that.
Yeah, they've got to be able to manipulate us.
It's more weakened, right? It's more weakened, mentally breakdown. I'll tell you, man, there's many times where I want to go to court. I want to do my version of law and put a bill in place and send it off to these politicians and send it off to my MLA and all that stuff. I get hyped to do it. And then you look back and you go, okay, what is my priority here? Right? Sometimes you have to look at your priority, because if you don't, you realize that you're playing somebody else's fiddle. And that's really important to recognize, is how much time are you willing to play somebody else's fiddle? because that's what it's all about. This is what psyops are all about, right? Willful idiots playing the divide. You need people to do their bit. If there's not a day that goes by that I have not thought of myself as a willful idiot in regards to psychological influence, it would be disingenuous, right? So that's why I had to document it and put it down on paper, because eventually, when you actually go through the whole cycle, let's say, you realize that it's been going on forever. Number one, psychological operations. Nothing that's going on is new. Number two, none of it. The government's always been corrupt, always. Nothing new, right?
That's the thing with these globers. That's the thing with these globers. They think they're too smart to be fooled or tricked or have mind games played on them. You know what I'm saying?
Look, the way I look at it too is there's also good. There's tons of good, honest people that may turn a blind eye because really, priorities. Running water, food, deliveries, jobs, income, banks are working. There's a lot of good, right? So when these fringe conspiracies pop up, some can be threatening to that complacency and comfort, right? Because what it's doing is it's revealing the flaws in the institutions. And if you get more people in on the method or in on the game, then these institutions don't have a chance to stand very much longer, right?
What kind of impact do you think Flat Earth would have if people had turned a blind eye and started, saying, "Oh, this is wrong, that's wrong, we're faking this"?
Well, the stock market would probably crash instantly. I don't know, man. I couldn't fathom it because it would be
Would people be storming the gates?
No. Well, first of all,
you don't think so? Everyone's gonna just keep going to work. No, like nothing ever happened. We'll just wait for the next news article.
I think at the end of the day, it may just be that, because it's too much. Like there's this.
You don't think a crowd would start to gather? Maybe, I don't know, outside NASA.
The only way it will change is once it turns political. That's it. And the only way that will turn political is once states, maybe like Florida or Texas, start taking it on.
Bro, it would be instantly political. NASA, that's not,
Well, that's what I mean, right? So once it goes there, if it goes there, then you're going to see a drastic change. But
I'm saying, if people knew it was flat, there'd be a major disruption in events.
Well, I don't know if it would be as drastic as you make it, because it was a slow. It has to be. It's like, for instance, like when you read these stories of agents that, let's say, worked on you had a handler, and you read stories where this handler kept feeding this guy this information every day. It was not true, but he believed it. And then when he was shown the opposite truth, he was like, no, I still deny it. He was literally like, this is proven shit, right? Like if you force something over a period of time to somebody, and then you actually go to show them the truth, they literally look at it and they deny it right away. They can't, it's like they literally can't see it. So we're at that stage, right? For like a very, very long time with everything.
Well, I hear you. The globe models, like I was saying the other night, everyone has a model of the world in their head, from the layout of your house to your neighborhood to your city, all the way down to the globe they got you sitting on. So that's a hard thing for people to walk away from. Yeah.
It would help if like Tom Hanks and the Kardashians and stuff came out and said the Earth was flat. When that happens, then it'll snowball. Most people don't give a shit about the shape of the Earth.
Exactly. Most people don't give a shit about space. Most people don't give a shit about space and going to Mars. They really don't. It's just like a small niche of people, just like every fringe idea or concept that's not mainstream. It's the same shit that's going on. If you look at all of your dispositions, everyone's talking, everyone's listening, were you always predisposed to distrust authority? Because if you are, then you're more likely to be a flat earther, right? Where you look at the glober, and I've done this, if you will, a little test on them. In other words, if I say to you, how much do you trust your government? 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%? 80%. And if I get an answer and they'll say 50%, and I say, well, does that mean you trust NASA 50% of the time? And if 50% of the time you trust NASA, what do you not trust NASA about? That will destroy them right there. Because it's an admission that they don't trust the government. NASA is government. So
why would they lie?
Well, that's the thing. I just got you.
That was a joke, I'm joking.
I know, but I just got you. Like, let's say you just said that. Why would they lie? I would just say to reply to you, I just got you to admit that 50% of your government you don't trust. So can you just elaborate on what 50% of NASA you don't trust? And they're like, well, you didn't specify. Well, NASA's your government. Does NASA fit a different category of your trust value? I know that if I had a girlfriend that cheated on me, I wouldn't trust her 50%. I wouldn't even trust her 10%. So, you know, it's just that easy to test the logic of these people and get them to just be like instantly cognitive dissonance, instantly Stockholm syndrome, instantly Munchausen syndrome. It's just down the line. Convince you you're sick. Convince you that we know what's going on. Science is settled. You know, we've convinced you.
Where's Ruhif? We're
He
waiting
ain't
for you,
coming,
Ruhif.
man. All the Globers, they all boycotted us today.
They don't want to find out what heat makes water boil.
I guess.
Too scary.
It is pretty terrifying to think about. Yeah, I don't know, man. Who knows if Flat Earth will ever be bigger or what we need is something that we can show people and say, look, here is something without a doubt that shows you what shape the Earth is.
For real.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing again.
Hold on a second, Dada.
Yeah.
Hold on. Did you see White's World backup test for if you can't get a reading when it's on the ground?
He talked about it the other night, but was there something he put out?
Yeah. No, I mean, just did you grasp the concept of it, or?
I did. Yeah, I have some questions about it, but yeah, I got what he was trying to do.
I told him to draw something up. Yeah, people, it was a little confusing, but.
So, Brandon, you just said that you needed something to show them, right? So what did you see? What did you see that Earth showed itself flat to you?
People ain't built like us, bro. You gotta, these motherfuckers need some definitive, demonstrable shit.
Hold on. No. That's not at all true. Because then it's a contradiction to what you just stated based on their philosophy of the world cosmology anyway. So, again.
What did you just say?
Their philosophy, the cosmology of the world, their philosophy on it, right? You just said that they needed demonstrable proof. And I just said that's a contradiction, right?
Well, no, they've been brainwashed they've been indoctrinated their whole lives with the globe. They got these people have the globe sitting at the foundation of the model inside their head. So now they're going to need some demonstrable shit to break free from that.
Yeah, so exactly my point. So Brandon said, what could we show them? And I said to him, well, what did you see? And then you said, we're not built like that. Or whatever you said.
No, they're not built. They're not. They're not built like that.
Okay, so hold on. So just going back to my question, what was it that you saw? Because at the end of the day, that's the demonstrable proof for you, because it's all subjective at this point, right? So if you talk about demonstrable evidence, you can show them water takes the shape of containment and creates a horizontal line. That line is 2 equal points of elevation. There's no escaping that objective truth. So
and then
what
here
do you
comes
mean?
Hold on. The Glober walk. Well, let me respond to that point real quick. So the Glober walks in and goes, la la la. That water's curving 8 inches over 1 mile.
Great. So here's the thing. They just said that though, right? So the demonstrable proof that you and I see is that water creates a horizontal path. They can't demonstrate it, right? They can't demonstrate it, but they can assert it by words, right? So it's the point of validity that you give that Glober at that point when it's not demonstrably, objectively true. And that's when it comes down to a common truth. In other words, when you establish an agreement, like I said earlier.
It's not. Hold on a second. It's not just words though. They're coming at them where they're showing them pictures from space and soundly curving bridge.
Objective truth, right? Which would be you and I seeing water contained, creating a horizontal path. 2 points of equal elevation, right? That's an objective truth that we both can see together. Agreed? That would be what's considered a common truth, maybe?
To a certain distance, yeah. We can agree to that.
Now we're talking certain distances. It's a whole other conversation. We're just talking at the present objective reality. It's a common truth. When we deviate from that common truth, we need to demonstrate it. When you can't demonstrate deviating from that common truth, that means you have a philosophy. The acknowledgement of that is all you need to discredit the globe Earth.
Yeah, that's not a bad argument. I agree with that, and I think that's kind of the type of thinking that led me to becoming a flat earther. That and everything just fits together and makes sense, and there's just a lack of evidence that we're on a giant spinning ball, which seems like a ludicrous idea in the first place.
See, my objective truth is that I've been in enough airplanes to know that there's no dip, no drop at 3 miles for a 6-foot observer. It's absolutely absurd, asinine, and completely retarded. I also know from high altitude drone photography, before they put in the 400-meter ban, when I was allowed to go 1,500 meters, that when I look directly down a bird's eye view, there's no curve, drop, nothing. I'm taking distance and elevation just like a map. So how dare you try to lie to me and tell me that a 6-foot observer is seeing a boat being obstructed by Earth curve, when at the same fucking breath I can look directly down and see a square mile surface, no dip, no drop, just 2-dimension, orthographically, beautifully distant and elevation. That's it. And because you are with a gyro that's level, you get frame to frame edges perfectly flat.
Yeah, I hear you. That's what did it for you?
Practical observation. Yeah, there's no well, and then really the complete deception, or sorry, the complete denial of optics in calculations. Like the either the acknowledgement that the ball is translated from I, which they'll never admit to, but yet the ball is subjecting our eyesight, right? So it's like reverse. So once I found that out, I was like, okay, there you go. That's pretty obvious at this point.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Well, it's about 1:45. Why don't we wrap it up? The Ballers were a no-show tonight. We'll mark that one on the calendar as a win for Flat Earth. And let's do final thoughts. Start off with percentage. What's up, percentage, and final thoughts? He's not there. LEB. Chad.
What's happening?
What's up? You watching what is that, Ghost or what?
No, it's Berlin, Take My Breath Away. I just got music playing.
Oh, okay. I thought you were watching it. Wasn't that in oh no, that was in Top Gun. That's what it was in.
Yeah, I never saw that. I saw like bits and pieces of it, I think.
What? You never seen Top Gun?
No, I've never seen the whole thing. You know, I've only seen the original 3 Star Wars.
Well, that's good.
I've never seen.
Don't bother yourself with the rest of them.
I've seen bits and pieces of. I saw like half of the 3rd one. Well, which would be numerically number 3. But yeah, I just asked in the chat, where's the Monkey Brigade? I mean, who scared everybody off?
They must be having a team meeting tonight or something. I don't know.
I scared them off. Anytime they come around, they don't want to talk to me anymore.
Listen, I don't want to
like what you talk about.
I sometimes get easily distracted, so I apologize because lots going on where I'm at. So I kind of tooth and a nail sometimes.
Yeah, Brandon, good show, man. Thanks.
Thanks, Chad. Data, final thoughts.
It's fun, you guys indulging my rants here and bring back old researched propaganda, the birth of, I guess, the the introduction of the Great Reset started in 2016. That's when they initially put this video forth. So there could be a lot of, connections to removing common truths from opposing belief systems dividing us further, but we will overcome that by debating, keeping a positive attitude, working hard, and sharing the truth when we can. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, thanks, Dana. Fe.
Yeah, I've kind of been in and out, but what I maybe would close with is that intellectual honesty, critical thought, and objectivity are pretty rare commodities these days. So if you find somebody that's got any or all of those things, you should value that person. And you don't have to agree on everything, but just enjoy being able to actually have a conversation that goes two ways and maintain those three things yourself as well, because it's easy to get caught up in your own paradigm. So, yeah, they're valuable things. Hang on to them. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, Fe. Jeremy.
You come with it tomorrow, because we got answers to your questions.
Hell yeah. Global virus foe.
Yeah, great show as usual. And just to remind everybody, for this last year, there's no excess deaths in comparison to the previous years before that. So definitely not a pandemic.
Oh shit. Thanks, Global. Jimbo.
Yeah, we got problems to the answers too, so it's not just answers to problems we got.
Maybe that should be our tagline, Jimbo. Left lane.
Oh, I just dropped in just now, so I guess it was a good show, and y'all have a good day.
Yeah, thanks for showing up there, Howard. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
We had but you were the only baller who showed up.
Jose had a show going, I think, at the same time. That's where you were, left lane.
Yeah, I was over there. He's been down for probably over an hour, I guess.
Oh, okay. Aaron. SE.
Yep, good show, Brandon. And we have to come to grips and just say one thing, that there's some things we'll never know. People have to understand that. That's it. Everybody, peace out.
Thank you, SE. Bob Dole. No? All right. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate you joining the panel tonight. That was a good conversation. Nice to not have, yelling and arguing for a show. I'm sure we'll get back to the normal back and forth tomorrow, but it was a good conversation. So I appreciate that. And looking forward to your book, Data. It'll be interesting to see what you come up with and what cover you decide. So looking forward to that. But we'll see everybody tomorrow night. And Ruhif, if you're out there, stop on in. All right. You guys have a good night. I'll be back. Bye. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Not our typical show, but it was kind of nice to talk about some other stuff going on in the world and to get Data's thoughts. Data has no shortage of things to say on many subjects. So that's cool. But anyway, we will see you tomorrow night. And I am still looking for some people to debate or someone to debate. So if you think you want to debate on the channel, or you got a couple people in mind that want to have a debate, get a hold of me. I'll set something up. It can be one-on-one, or they can join the panel. Open to either one. But otherwise, have a good night, and we'll be back tomorrow. See you later.